What's the date? Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order this evening, and I want to say welcome to all our guests that are here this evening for the July 22nd meeting of the St. John Common Council. And I'm going to open the meeting with a land acknowledgement. The city of St. John, Menaquest, is situated on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik. The Wolastoqiyik, along with their indigenous neighbors, the Mi'kmaq and Pescataway, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s that protected their rights to lands and resources. So I'm going to ask everyone to just pause and reflect on that for a few minutes. Thank you. And I'll ask everyone to please stand while we have the national anthem. Okay, City Clerk. Next item, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item is 2.1 on your agenda, approval of July 8th minutes.
Approval of July 8th minutes. Deputy and Councillor Harris on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next, we have item 3, approval of the agenda. There's a request to change item 522 with 521 to change the order of those items.
822.
My apology,
Right.
822 with 821.
Yep.
And as well, there are a number of additions from Committee of the Whole recommendations. The first one is 17.1, and it's invitation to present party platform to council. 17.2, our IRCC contribution agreement. 17.3, revised lease agreement with St. John Arts Centre. 17.4, construction license agreement for 99 King Street. 17.5 and 17.5.1, retail drive realignment agreements. 17.6, sale of portion of Somerset Acres to Housing MB. 17.7, Rapid Housing Initiative Barracks Green update.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Norton on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next is item 4, disclosures of conflict of interest, if we have any.
Yeah, Councillor Redwan, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a conflict on, I think it's 17.5 Retail Drive. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Stewart.
Same thing.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, City Clerk.
Next item is the consent agenda, number 5.
Deputy, over to you.
Thank you, Worship. I would move 5.1 through to 5.7, please.
Take a seconder on that, Councillor Sullivan. On the question, Councillor Radwan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say a big thank you to staff for putting the application for 5.3, the Living Cities Canada Fund for Trees. And I wanted to send a special thank you to Roxanne McKinnon from ACAP. They've been doing really, really good work out in Glen Falls. We had a meeting very close after we got into office here. And they just recently went out and did a bunch of trees in the park there. And it's great to see them going to be doing this project on Rayland Street. So if anybody's interested, take a look at the packet and it's got more details in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Green Communities Canada, putting 100 trees in Glen Falls. Councillor Ogden, over to you.
Remember Leo McAdam, well-known.
Can we do that in members' comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right, so I have a mover and a seconder on the consent agenda, so I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is item 6, members' comments.
Over to you, Councillor Ogden.
How did you know? I would just like to remember Leo McAdam, a big family. I think Leo lived in Bridge Street and in Milledgeville. He owned McAdam Optical. I'm friends with some of his family. He was an MLA for Milledgeville North End, and he was a Minister of Tourism, and he was had quite a jovial laugh to him, and he was extremely well liked. So condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hickey?
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I wanted to give a plug for the Queen Square Farmers Market. If you haven't been yet this year, you should. Every Sunday, Queen Square. Thanks.
Good idea. It's excellent. Councillor Sullivan?
And if you can't be at Queen Square on Sundays, you can be at the market on Thursday nights for the Thursday night market. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Also, just a bit of an update later on the agenda is some consideration of bylaws with regards to no parking at the end of Millage Avenue for the installation of the boat ramp. For those boaters out there, thank you for your patience this summer as that area is under construction to put in a proper boat ramp under the St. John River. And the piece we'll see later on tonight is to keep people from parking on the boat ramp so that people can have access. So thanks for your patience. It's still going ahead. The engineers tell me it's on schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Radwan, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's a well-used area too, Councillor Sullivan. Beautiful spot. Culture Fest is coming up, the New Brunswick Day long weekend, and it's a couple-day event now. It's getting bigger, so I highly encourage people to go to it. It would be on the St. John Newcomers website and Facebook page. I also wanted to let our community that are from Bangladesh know today that my thoughts and prayers are with them. They had their students peacefully protesting for workers' rights, and a lot of people have gotten killed in Bangladesh. And the challenge for our community is they can't get a hold of their families. So if my ask to the community is if you have a friend from Bangladesh, reach out and touch base with them because they're needing some support right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Killen, over to you.
Your Worship, so much. Just because we're not going to be here for a little bit, there's St. John Pride that's happening from the 9th to the 18th, and it's all over the city. There's stuff at the Aquatic Center, Java Moose, BMO Theater, Queen Square, the Diamond Jubilee. There's all kinds of stuff going on. It's like super packed. So check out sjpride.ca for all of the fun happenings for 10 whole days. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I will quickly mention that Idoli Magahamik we had the official opening down there today, and it was very successful. Great day for it. It's been a long time coming, so it's really exciting for the city to have that space opened up. It's exciting for the restaurants. You're going to be able to go down and walk right into the water down there, so it's a great space. There was a splash pad on today, and the kids were having a grand time. So that was happening. We've got the Boxcar Festival is coming up very shortly, so they're going to see a lot of cowboy hats around the city. That'll be lots of fun. Did roll call this weekend, and that was the car show, so that was, I guess, very successful as well. 1778 opened last week, and it's on Prince William Street, and Edwin Bernard is the proprietor and owner, and he has a lot of, everything in there is from, most of it's handmade. I got myself a beautiful basket, the indigenous population, so he's got some nice crafts in there. He's actually has clothing in there that has the 1778 on it. And this, what I just read here, the land acknowledgement, that's when the treaties were signed. It says that the treaties were signed with the British Crown in the 1700s, 1778, that's when they were signed, so that's what the name means. So it's a great space. You really should get down there and try to support that. And to Mr. McAdam's family, I would send condolences on behalf of the City of St. John and Council, and also to Nick Vincent's family. He's a young guy, and I guess he was a big proponent of the skateboarding park. So he's, I guess they've suggested that maybe we should give some knowledge or acknowledge that as, or rename it for in his memory. So to the Vincent family, and I know Kathleen and Colleen very well, I send our condolences on behalf of the city and the council as well. Okay, City Clerk, next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is under presentations section of the agenda, item 8.1, transforming healthcare in New Brunswick. And I understand we have Executive Director Alyssa Long, as well as David Ryan, Fundraising Manager, here today.
Okay, oh, here we go. Welcome, Alyssa. Dave, are you not staying down here for the presentation? You're just taking us? Okie dokie. We'll turn it right over to her then. Thank you. Okay, sounds good. All right, Alyssa, over to you. Oh,
Good evening, Your Worship. Good evening, councillors. Thank you so much for the invitation to present this evening. My name is Alyssa Long. As Mayor Reardon mentioned, I am the Executive Director of the New Brunswick Medical Education Foundation. With me as well online, I believe, are two of our board members, Ms. Nora Mallory, as well as Dr. Tom Barry, and then you would have just seen my colleague, David Ryan, as well. The New Brunswick Medical Education Foundation is a unique organization, not only in New Brunswick, but across Canada. We are—
Hold on.
We're in, okay?
Okay, all right.
Bye.
We are a private, nonprofit foundation dedicated to securing doctors for New Brunswick, but also to enhancing access to primary care for all New Brunswickers. We were founded in 2010, and again, we are Canada's only private not-for-profit with this particular mission. We have proven success, and we extend return-to-service scholarships to New Brunswick medical students and allied health professional students, where they commit to practicing in New Brunswick once qualified, and therefore we ensure a pipeline of students is ready to work in New Brunswick. So as noted, there is a dire need across New Brunswick. We are all aware of the current healthcare crisis. Today, there are over 80,000 New Brunswickers waiting for a primary care provider. The average provincial physician is 49 years old as of April this year. We know that there are over 200 vacancies right now across the province for physicians, and past efforts to address this crisis have been costly, siloed, and with varied results. But in St. John, we see that the crisis exists here as well on a more micro level. As of 2023, per the primary care survey, 86.4% in the Fundy Shore and St. John area health zone have a primary care provider. This sounds good, but it's actually down from 93% in 2017. Our zone's waitlist is estimated to be at over 24,000 citizens. But while access to a care provider is a good metric, what's more important is timely access to a provider, and that's where we see numbers that are more concerning. Just 33% of residents with a provider can get an appointment within 5 days. That's down from 62% in 2017. What we also see are that immigrants, racialized groups, and those living in poverty are less likely to have access to a primary care provider across New Brunswick. So where does our model come in? We raise funds as a foundation to support student scholarships. We fund current New Brunswick medical and allied health professional students. They commit to the province, and therefore we have a pipeline of future physicians committed to New Brunswick and New Brunswickers for decades to come. So let's quantify that impact. Since 2010, we have supported over 300 students. In 2023 alone, we awarded over 130 scholarships, totaling over $1 million in tuition relief. Currently, 51 graduate physicians are practicing in New Brunswick, but what's more impressive is 200 students have pledged to practice here once qualified, and they will be within the New Brunswick labor market within the next 5 to 10 years, many of whom are returning to St. John. When we look at the students we support, applications last year were up 58% year over year, demonstrating a growing need for tuition relief with a rising cost of living. We know that, but what's more important is these are all students willing to commit to New Brunswick, to regions in New Brunswick, and to St. John. We had the capacity last year to support 68% of applicants. I'm very pleased to report that this year we're actually supporting 75% of our applicants, which were up again year over year. Recipients represented last year 40 plus New Brunswick communities. 64% were bilingual, able to converse in both official languages. 44% were from underrepresented groups. Now, when we look at St. John, again, we see a regional impact. 12 of our program alumni are currently practicing in St. John, including Dr. Robert Hanlon, who graduated in 2021. We received this year 14 applications from St. John residents. Last year, we awarded 77% of those applications. We anticipate now awarding 86% in 2024. These are future St. John physicians. And unfortunately, due to a limit in our scholarship capacity, we did have to turn away 2 eligible applicants. We're hoping this will be resolved by next year, and I firmly believe this is possible. I talked about quantifying our impact, and it goes beyond simply the number of scholarships we award and the dollars in tuition relief we support. There are economic implications to the work we do. In 2023, we commissioned an economic impact survey by Jubia Consultants, Inc. to tie in what a physician means to a community. And what we found was incredibly encouraging. We know that healthcare is a top employer across New Brunswick. It's the largest employment sector in over 100 New Brunswick communities, including St. John. And it generates over $1 billion in annual provincial tax revenue. We know that a single family practice boosts provincial GDP by $285,000 per year, provincial tax revenue by $74,000 per year, and municipal tax revenue by $13,000 per year, or $100,000 over a period of 10 years. We know within 10 years of that practice operating, it will create an induced $1.2 million in household spending. It will employ an average of 3.2 jobs, full-time positions, and we know that those working in physicians' offices make a higher than average annual salary, which means more spending, more charitable giving, and more economic benefits for that community. So again, looking aside from the quantitative data, what's the qualitative impact of the work we do? We support succession planning. Because of the pipeline we maintain and that we communicate with regularly, if a physician were to come to us and say, I'm going to retire in 5 years, in 2 years, in 1 year, who can come replace me? We can provide names. We can go out to our network and provide a service that is hereby really unheard of. We connect future doctors to communities. Many of the scholarships we award are tied to specific regions in the province. Many of our awards are tied to St. John, to Bathurst, to Riverview, Dieppe. And so we know who's coming back to which communities. We have a network of students and alumni. We connect with our team, with our people, with our students regularly. We have newsletters, we have quarterly webinars, annual scholarship events, annual open houses, and more is being added each year to ensure that these students feel that they're part of a network, that they're nurtured, and that they have a community that believes in them and their potential. And then finally, we have a growth plan to support every eligible applicant who is willing to commit to New Brunswick, to St. John, to ensure that nobody is turned away. So the big picture, again, why do we bring doctors to communities? They allow families access to primary care and peace of mind. We know that employers stand a better chance of growing their workforces. We can ease the strain on emergency rooms and clinics. And finally, our province and our city and our region is better positioned for growth. So how can St. John become involved? Lots of ways. I believe in fundraising as much as fundraising, even though my job is more built around fundraising. But still, we are looking for people who can help us spread the word. Too few people know about this work. Too few people know about the foundation, its success, and the physicians who are coming into this province. Help us, please, spread the word. We do partner with other municipalities. We partner with private donors, corporations, educational bodies. The field is open. We are looking for partnerships, friends, and advocates, for example, like Dieppe, but also so many others. And then we do have, of course, as well, a volunteer board of directors made up currently of 13 members, many of whom are from the St. John and Greater St. John region, advise us, guide us every day. And I would like to read, in closing, a statement from the co-chair of our board of directors, Dr. Michael Simon. On behalf of the New Brunswick Medical Education Foundation, I would like to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to learn about this important initiative. I'm sorry I can't be here to present in person, but the Foundation's staff will do a much better job than me anyway. The Foundation has become the most effective medical recruiting tool in the province. From its inaugural presentation of 3 scholarships in 2010 to last year's presentation of 130 scholarships to New Brunswick Medical School students, we are growing in leaps and bounds. How does this impact you? Well, those 130 scholarships mean 130 years of service, which is the equivalent of 4 family doctors practicing their entire careers in the province, which means thousands of patients getting care. How many here do not have a family doctor? How many know someone that doesn't have a family doctor and has to rely on virtual medicine or sit in the emergency room for hours on end? To date, the Foundation has recruited 51 homegrown medical professionals to practice in the province, both family physicians and specialists, and there are 200 more who have committed to practice in the province. The journey to solve the current medical crisis will not be an easy one, but the Foundation has taken major steps to help New Brunswickers get the care they deserve. So I want to thank Council, everyone here, for listening to this presentation. Again, it's not often that we hear a good news story in healthcare. It's something that I'm really delighted to share with you. We've come a long way in 14 years. I think that within the next few years, we will be able to close the gap. We will get to a point where we can award 100% of eligible students with tuition relief that gets us the commitment to stay in New Brunswick. I'm excited to continue this dialogue with St. John and to share more information and answer any questions you have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. It was a very great presentation. It's important work that you're doing because every one of us needs access to healthcare, young, old, in between. So it's very important work. But I do have, there's a couple of questions here. I've got Councillor Red one up first.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. This is a great presentation, and anybody who's watched, if you didn't catch this, the New Brunswick Medical Education Foundation. And I want to thank Dave for showing an example of how you empower your staff, including women. It was great to see you step aside, even though I know you know everything as well. And thanks to Council. I think that I think that people have been advocating that work at Horizon for years, and the staff are working really, really hard and trying to do a great job, and they're stretched. There's a stat in here that you have in your pamphlet that we got. It says 45% of our province's family physicians are over the age of 55. That's alarming. That's a stat I didn't know, and it was great where it was positioned in the pamphlet. It scared me when I opened it. So the big question for me is if somebody from the public wants to donate or wants to help in any way, what is the best way? How can they connect with you?
Absolutely. There are a number of ways, and Like I mentioned, we are fortunate enough to work with donors from all sectors. Whether you're with a corporation, a private citizen looking to help, we have everything from a monthly giving community set up to people who fund scholarships to people who make annual donations. Please come talk to me if you would like to consider making a donation, becoming a friend and advocate. We are online at nbmeded.ca. You can reach me at alyssa.long@nbmeded.ca by email. We have a staff in the office, a staff of 3 people, and we would be happy to engage in a discussion or conversation and help support more students.
That's great. And I see your phone number is 848-2109. So that's great. Thanks for coming. It's a great piece of information, and we really, really need to enhance our medical facilities. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radon.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. What does the relationship look like with other municipalities? Because you did mention that. So I'm just curious, what other municipalities and what does that look like?
Of course. We actually have a number of different models for partnering with municipalities. And we have the flexibility, because we manage an inventory of 150 awards now, to enter into specific agreements with each donor to manage the eligibility criteria and return to service requirements for each award. The City of Dieppe, for example, created an endowment several years ago to support a medical education scholarship in perpetuity. So it is a permanent award that supports a student with $5,000 in tuition relief per year. That student commits to practicing in Dieppe upon graduation. And actually, the first recipient of that award has graduated and is about to begin his family medicine residency in Moncton and plans to settle in Dieppe following that 2-year program. We work with communities who provide annual scholarships, where it's renewed on an annual basis. So that would be the town of Riverview, for example, follows that model, as does Rothsay. We have scholarships that are based on term commitments. So, for example, a community may come and support a $5,000 or $10,000 scholarship over a period of 4 or 8 years. Tantramar, for example, just agreed to provide a $5,000 scholarship for a period of 4 years.
Okay, that's pretty extensive. I wasn't aware of how broad the network went when it comes to municipal engagement, so that's great to hear. Does the organization do any advocacy work with the province? I mean, it occurs to me that we wouldn't have to be fundraising for tuition relief if we just had free tuition for doctors and healthcare workers on a number of fronts, especially in the areas where we have crisis, right?
No, I understand completely. We're a small team. We're just 3 staff people, so at this point we're managing the scholarship awards. However, we did publish a new strategic plan in February, and advocacy is one of the key pillars of that plan. We do have a great relationship we've established with the Department of Health. Last year they invested $2.5 million in this program, which doubled our award capacity year over year, allowing us to create an additional 67 awards this year.
Okay, and I would be remiss if I didn't put a plug in. If you know of any family doctors taking clients, I have 4 kids. I would love to have a family doctor. We lost ours 2 years ago, so been on the wait list ever since. So I get the urgency here. Thanks so much.
You're probably going to get a call, Councillor. Councillor Norton, over to you.
Your Worship, it's good to hear Dr. Barry's with us online all the way from New Maryland. Dr. Barry was my family physician at one time, so New Brunswick's blessed with some of the best, but I can see why Dr. Simon and Dave let you take the mic. Great job today, Alyssa. You know, Councillor Harris really asked my question, what are some of the arrangements or the relationships between municipalities and obviously the New Brunswick Medical Education Foundation? We get lots of presentations that come in, and often the question is, look, what can we do other than just a presentation and host you? So I hope maybe through the common clerk we can do this again, possibly this time next year, and make this an annual thing. But if there's anything that we can do as a City of St. John to fill that pipeline, to make sure that we have not only specialist positions, over 110 plus open specialty positions in New Brunswick, and in general practice 130 plus, and making sure that we're feeding it not only from a fundraising perspective but from a friendship perspective as well. I'd say that you got a willing partner in the City of St. John, so I'm looking forward to helping nurture that and foster that. But thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, Councillor.
Deputy, over to you.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for coming in. I mean, your biggest cheerleaders are your doctors, because that's where I heard about this. from Dr. Simon. And, we had a great discussion. I am just in awe of what you guys have done, and I'm so glad that you were able to come in tonight and get the word spread around. The only question that I have is, you hear a lot of talk about doctors having so much of a workload. Like, a couple of years ago, my doctor retired, he had like 5,000 patients. Is there like any kind of commitment on how many patients a doctor takes? Because I know that's a lot different today than it was back then. So is there a minimum, maximum, or anything like that, or they just open practice and take as many as they want to?
That question would probably pertain more closely to the employers, so the regional health authorities. So we don't have in our return of service agreements any stipulated patient loads. What we do is a yearly commitment. So if they receive 4 years of funding through our program, they commit to 4 years practicing here in New Brunswick. I understand what you're saying. Oftentimes it's not a 1-to-1 ratio anymore with somebody exiting versus coming into the system. What we are trying to do is fill that pipeline and bring as many doctors back to New Brunswick as we possibly can.
Right, and you're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Okay, Alyssa, that's it for questions. I just want to say thanks again. Really appreciate you being here. It's great information for us. I want to thank Dave Ryan, thanks for coming along. Tom and Nora, thanks to both of you for being here this evening and joining with us. And I'll take a motion to receive the information. Councillor Norton. Oh, hang on. Oh, sorry, we have a hand up somewhere. Did Nora or Tom, did one of you want to have your hand up to speak?
Yes, I'm willing to speak.
Okay.
One of the issues of the minimum maximum, the horizon in the course St. John and Zone 2 does have a minimum of somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200. The other issue is I wanted to go through Zone 2. Charlotte County is part of Zone 2, of course, as you know, and it's down right now at least 2 family doctors, and with a threat of losing 2 more. St. John at the time has lost 4 in the last month. And also Sussex is relatively stable, but it's the age of the physicians, and I couldn't hear Alyssa's presentation for the first 15 minutes, unfortunately. But your technical crew got me back on. But I've surveyed the Department of Family Practice to family doctors in St. John, and also the medical VP, and the issue is that, as Alyssa did, say that, we are, and I was chief of staff of Horizon Health, which included Moncton, Fredericton, St. John, Upper Valley, Miramichi, for 10 years, and involved numerous recruitment issues, and this is the only one that has worked well. And that's why when I stepped down as chief of staff for Horizon Health, I was invited onto this board, and gladly did so and been involved. And there's been a huge, the pipeline is increasing. You have to be patient. It takes, 4 years to get through medical school, and 2 years for family practice after that, maybe 5 years after that to get through a specialty. But the pipeline is enlarging, as Alyssa, I'm sure, told you, and unfortunately I couldn't hear for the first 15 minutes. But anyway, I just wanted to say that St. John is unfortunately going into the same position that Fredericton and Moncton have lived in for the last 5 or 6 years and 7 years and getting worse. I just wanted you to understand there is an urgency in the future, and I think that's really the point I was trying to make, is that this is all about the future, but now but also as far as recruitment right now, we are in the now as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay.
Thank
I
you.
guess that's it. So I've got a motion to receive, yeah. And the deputy, thank you, Alyssa. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Well, that was great. It's good information. Thank you, Nora, and thank you, Tom, for being here this evening. All right, next item, City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is a second presentation, and this one is from St. John Energy. And I believe it's going to the Commissioner to introduce.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, to council, staff, and and representatives of St. John Energy are pleased to be here tonight to provide an update to council. First, we'll have the chair of St. John Energy, Jim Shaw, do an introduction, followed by Ryan Mitchell, the president and CEO of St. John Energy. After that, I'll be pleased to provide an update from staff on our corporatization efforts. And with that, I'll pass it over to Chairman Mr. Shaw to start off.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us here tonight to do a presentation. Like Alyssa, we believe we have a good news story as well. St. John Energy has so much in the way of success in the last few years, and we look forward to the future for all the things that we hope to accomplish. I also want to thank Council's appointees to our board during my tenure on our Board of Commissioners, which has been 10 years now. And initially it was Councillor McKenzie who was with us, and we appreciate your input, and now Gary Sullivan, Councillor Sullivan, and we certainly appreciate the input and the contribution that both of you make to our board. Having served on the board for more than a decade now, it has become abundantly clear to me why this utility is viewed as one of the most innovative in the country. It's because of a culture of thinking outside the box, of wondering what can we do differently. It is that commitment to innovation that prompted us to pursue a modern governance structure, which requires a change to provincial legislation. Laws that govern St. John Energy now are dated and obsolete. They certainly do not reflect the realities of the energy sector that we operate in today. In fact, our legislation goes back to 1924, which said we could sell stoves and rent water heaters. So we need an update. Modernizing legislation is an important step forward. With that step, St. John Energy would join the more than 90% of electrical utilities in Canada that already benefit from the flexibility of a modern corporation. It will allow us to pursue even more innovative opportunities on behalf of our customers. It would enshrine the ability for St. John Energy to flow benefits back to the city of St. John. We think that's a good thing.
We do too.
The city, of course, is our sole shareholder of our utility, and it would make for a stronger community. It has been said that if you lack vision and aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. St. John Energy has a clear vision to be a national leader among electrical utilities in Canada in the transition to net zero. We are demonstrating bold leadership with 030, a dynamic roadmap that will lay out our options to reach carbon neutrality by 2030 and allow customers to join if they choose to. Modernizing our government structure would only strengthen our ability to innovate and our ability to build a stronger future for our locally owned utility. And let me assure you of this. In any initiative that we engage in, we do extensive discussion and testing at St. John Energy, and it has to have a strong business case in and of itself and be sustainable and beneficial to St. John Energy, as well as the City of St. John and to our ratepayers as well. Our President and CEO, Ryan Mitchell, will now highlight some of the exciting news and initiatives and successes of St. John Energy.
Welcome, Ryan.
Good evening, Your Worship and Common Council. It is my pleasure to be here today to share with you an overview of some of what we've been focused on at St. John Energy and to give you a glimpse into some of the opportunities that we have ahead. Let's see if I can get the slides. Am I able to use the mouse? Try it. Perfect. All right. So first, some important foundational points. Since 1922, we've been serving St. John with unwavering commitment. Our local mission is very important to us, and that includes a commitment to high reliability. That means doing all that we can to keep unplanned outages to a minimum, and when they do occur, keeping them as short as we can. We've consistently ranked as one of the best in Canada for reliability, as well as customer service and satisfaction. An extension of that is we are doing all that we can to keep our rates stable and as competitive as we can. In fact, our rates are still among the lowest in Atlantic Canada. And we're executing on a vision to be a national leader among electrical utilities in the transition to net zero carbon emissions, as our board chair had just mentioned. I'll speak to each of these in more detail as we move through the presentation. First, on that vision statement, we've been working hard over the last year on 030, a roadmap that we are building on to show how St. John Energy might achieve carbon neutrality by 2030 and bring our customers along if they wish. There are 3 pillars to 030. First, a cleaner energy supply. Second is innovating with our customers. And third is planning for a future with escalating demand. The electricity supply in New Brunswick is already among the cleanest in the world, with about 80% coming from non-emitting sources such as hydro, nuclear, and wind. As you know, St. John Energy is meeting 15% of the city's electricity needs through a partnership with Natural Forces and Nuguktuk First Nation, also known as Tobique, who are owners of the Birch Hill Wind Farm in the city. With 030, we're focused on finding ways to close the remaining gap, plus cover the rise in future demand. And we know from a recent customer survey that 95%, and I think I have to repeat that, 95% of our customers back our pursuit of more renewable energy. 030 will seek to determine the optimal mix of wind, solar, energy storage, and carbon offset credits, as well as other opportunities to achieve net zero. Our customers are at the forefront of all we do, and 030 is no exception. This focus in the past has led to high demand services such as our water heater and heat pump rental programs, and more recently, e-bike financing, an EV charger rental program, and renewable energy certificates. The backdrop to this is that in the same recent survey, 8 in 10 customers say that they are concerned or very concerned about the impacts of climate change from greenhouse gas emitting sources of energy and are willing to participate in taking action. So as we map our way to net zero by 2030, we will be exploring ways in which we can help our customers do the same. This will include looking at what leadership role we should play with innovations in renewable energy options such as rooftop solar, in-home electrification, and in energy efficiency. As customers increasingly shift away from fossil fuels, demand for electricity is expected to increase exponentially. We are working hard to prepare for that rise in demand. Over the last several years, St. John Energy and our partners developed an advanced smart grid to improve efficiency and to deal with that surging demand. Recognized nationally and internationally for the innovation, the St. John Energy Smart Grid not only positions us with strength for the decades to come, but gives us the flexibility we need to innovate for our customers and respond efficiently to their needs. An example of the innovation and flexibility our smart grid empowers is the Tesla Megapacks. In March, we joined partners Tobique First Nation and Natural Forces in commissioning 3 new Megapacks at our Somerset substation. These batteries, along with the very first one we installed in 2019 at our Milledgeville substation, are tremendous assets able to balance green energy and aid in our efforts to curb the financial and environmental costs of peak energy demand. But we'll need to do even more to meet the needs of the future power demand in St. John. We will need to physically enhance our grid, building it out with additional transformation, distribution equipment, and other infrastructure enhancements as needed. 030 is helping to map out how and where our grid will need to evolve so we can strategically prioritize our investments in the system. So we're really excited about what lies ahead. At our AGM last month, we were excited to share the news that we will be leveraging learnings from around the world in 030 through a collaboration with Deloitte. By working with the Deloitte teams who have helped solve energy challenges in different corners of the world, we will be able to bring the best and the most innovative solutions to the table for St. John. You might have also heard the news of our partnership with Kraken Technologies, a UK-based software company with success around the globe for the way it advances customer service and green energy technologies. Kraken will allow us to harness our systems and data in a much more powerful way and will mean we can propel our success in customer service and innovation even further. We're proud to be Kraken's first distribution and retail electricity customer here in North America. And there's much more to come. We'll be working with leading firms right here in St. John to propel our 030 work forward. So please stay tuned for future announcements. Last year, we set a new high water mark for savings from our Shave the Peak initiative, which in 2023, it exceeded $1.8 million. And I'm happy to report so far in 2024, we have already reached 1.8 million in savings, so we are well on our way to topping it again this year. Peak demand energy is costly, both financially and environmentally, as fossil fuel plants are fired up to meet demand. So we've been taking a number of steps to curb that demand. Those steps now include asking our customers to voluntarily dial back their energy usage ahead of a looming peak, turning down the voltage on our system, and leveraging the storage available in the megapacks. This total now also includes the peak demand savings that we leverage from Birch Hill. At St. John Energy, we take great pride in our rates consistently being among the lowest in the region. Here you can see the magnitude of the difference within the Maritimes. Historically, we've achieved this through strong and prudent fiscal discipline, and that's especially true today. But an added benefit now is Birch Hill and the low-cost wind energy it provides. The long-term agreement we have in place to purchase all the electricity from the wind farm at a fixed price helps ensure price stability for at least the 15% of the demand that it provides. Access to low-cost renewable energy combined with our ongoing focus on demand cost reduction meant that when MB Power rates went up by 9.8% on April the 1st, we were no longer having to pass along the full increase. Instead, our residential rates increased by 9.27%, while general service rates increased by 6.9%. We finished our fiscal year ending December 31st with great strength, with a net income of more than $5.1 million. You can see here how we have steadily improved our financial performance since the pandemic. It is important to note here that this $5.1 million represents approximately 4% of our $130 million in revenue over the year. Although it may be modest, this is important growth. It allows us to reinvest in our system and pursue innovation for a stronger energy future for St. John, while offering rates that are consistently among the lowest in the region. Every year, Electricity Canada, through independent research firm, polls the customers of utilities to determine how they are performing. St. John Energy has a proud history of being among one of the most highly regarded electrical utilities in the country. And last year was no exception. You can see here that we continue to rank well both regionally and nationally on a variety of important measures: customer satisfaction, reliability, environmental stewardship, and trustworthiness. We feel it is important to not only measure how we're doing, but to be able to benchmark ourselves against our peers in the region and across Canada. Over the past year, we've collaborated extensively with local, provincial, and national governments to drive energy policy and innovation forward. In collaboration with the city, we have been in talks with the Government of New Brunswick to establish a modern governance structure that aligns us with the majority of Canadian electrical utilities. As Ian will go into more detail, St. John Energy's board and management team is very much aligned and supportive of this modernization. This is important to our evolution as a progressive and innovative electric utility dedicated to serving the citizens of this city. We would certainly appreciate Common Council's ongoing support in this effort. At St. John Energy, our success is powered by our people, and I am so very grateful for the extraordinary talent, dedication, and skills that our employees bring to the job every day. We would not have the kind of results that you saw in that survey without the care and commitment that they demonstrate. They are the heart of St. John Energy. I will also add that our people and our company are very much invested in the community. Giving back is a fundamental part of the culture at St. John Energy. Our employees give back with their time through volunteering and significant financial support to a wide range of charities in the city, where donations are often matched by the utility. We are very involved in organizations that fight poverty, organizations like PALS, Be Happy, and the United Way. Most recently, St. John Energy was recognized by the United Way as its #1 corporate donor. We take a leadership role in supporting this effort because we very much believe in the importance of building a brighter and stronger future for the city of St. John. As I close my formal presentation today, I want to thank you for your time this evening and for your ongoing support of St. John Energy. And now, Ian, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get a couple of questions in, Ryan, before you? Do you mind if we get a couple of questions in for Ryan? Okay. Well, do you have a question for Ryan, or do you want to wait until Ian does his presentation? All right, perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Oh, sorry, Councillor Sullivan, sorry.
No worries. Just before Ian starts his presentation, the second last slide that was titled "Our People Drive Our Success," and Ryan is quick to talk about everybody else, so I'm going to talk about Ryan a little bit. Our leadership in Ryan and Jim at St. John Energy is fantastic, and that's really what sets the tone throughout the organization. St. John Energy is a jewel that we have in our city. We are so lucky to have it, but it's really because of the stewardship that it's been under. So just sitting at the council table now, Ryan and Jim, I'll say thank you, and just for my council colleagues who don't get to interact with you as much as I do, thank you very much, and certainly you deserve the credit as well as you pass through the team.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor. Nice words. Okay, Commissioner, over to you.
This guy right there. You play?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ryan. Yeah, my presentation is just to add on to St. John Energy. So one phrase that Ryan pointed out is our efforts to corporatize. As you know, the path to corporatization lies through the province. I'll be pleased to give a little update as to where we are. So over the past year, we've been aligned with St. John Energy in trying to achieve corporatization. We both agreed on key objectives around the modernization principles, the principles of interest both to St. John Energy and the City of St. John. And the teams have worked to advance a private bill to meet those objectives. And then we also remain focused on that, achieving those objectives and on the path forward. Just a reminder for council and also for the community is what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to accomplish full corporatization of St. John Energy. And through this does several things, including adding transparency. We're talking about transparency. We're talking about transparency of rate settings, rate classes, and how rates get set. It enables the growth agenda that we all know St. John Energy is poised to be able to obtain. It provides taxpayer protection as well. Through a corporatization effort and transparency, we'll be able to have kind of a regulation light. You'll be more transparent as to how rates are set. Also, it will financially benefit ratepayers in the City of St. John as owners, as Ryan alluded to. And will create an equal playing field for St. John Energy, matching the utility interests from outside of the province. Just to highlight that, there are the ability for other municipalities who own electrical utilities to operate within the private sector here in the province. Any profits they would earn would get returned to those municipalities outside the province. We want to be on that equal playing field and keep those profits here locally. Also, it will help advance the environmental sustainability, which is in line with both the federal, provincial, and city goals. In previous history, we know we've had commitment to achieving corporatization, including dating back to, well, probably predates this, but it was definitely in writing and committed to and endorsed through Sustaining St. John, a 3-part plan, and back before the pandemic. The legislation target at the time was 2020. Now, we all know what happened in 2020, so we can be a little patient as far as achieving that. But since then, we know we've also gone through the evaluation of the growth agenda in 2020. We validated the model with other stakeholders, and we know what's being done in other jurisdictions, and we know what's looking to achieve here is not outside what other jurisdictions are already accomplishing. And as a part of that, we're continuing it's been part of our reform advocacy for 2023 as well. So a review of where we are today. As we talked about before, the City of St. John and St. John Energy have aligned on a governance structure. We've performed the legal and financial due diligence required to support the governance structure. We've drafted and socialized and reviewed the legislation with various government departments, including NB Power, and we've publicly advertised the intention to seek governance structure by a private member's bill. And we continue to have a series of government discussions with government in order to discuss the aspects of the governance structure and how we would advance that. This past year, government decided not to proceed with the bill during the last session of the legislature. Instead, it has indicated a willingness to look at corporatization as part of the ongoing fiscal reform in the next year. So as we look forward, we are looking for that commitment from the province to help us achieve corporatization as part of the fiscal reform process in spring of 2025. If there's more due diligence to be done and directed that way, we're ready, and along with St. John Energy, to complete that work. We're looking to strike a working group in order to work through any concerns, both with the provincial government and NB Power, that they may have. And we need the province to allow the corporatization of the utility through fiscal reform process with the enabling legislation to move through the spring 2025 sitting of the legislature. And with that, I'll either Ryan or I can answer any questions that you may have.
All right, sounds good. I have Councillor Harris up here first. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for all that. I mean, it's every time someone complains to me about the water rates in the city, I'm always quick to say, but look, Fredericton has this many lift stations. It's like 2. Moncton has 1, and you have 30 to deal with in your infrastructure. But we always have this ace up our sleeve in St. John Energy, which keeps our rates lower than everybody else in the region and our outages way less than everybody else. So you're never going to get anything but 5-star reviews from this council. But I guess my concern here is we have not had a stable partner at the provincial level. We have seen this province in the past come in and put handcuffs on this utility in many ways and this council. And as you've already pointed out, Ian, Commissioner Fogan, sorry, we've got a commitment from 2020. And Jeff Carr came down here, I know he's not with the government any longer, and presented the St. John a 3-part plan. And it had a list of stuff we had to get done. And we did it. And people lost their jobs and millions was cut, and it was difficult. And I don't think the residents, and as much as we try to talk about this and I try to tell people, I don't think residents realize what's at stake here when you've got a utility that is already hitting, 5-star reviews, not just from our opinion, but nationally, keeping our rates low, but the legislation is stacked against them. So how do we know? And what is the strategy here to get the province to get out of our way? Because, while they're busy down in Florida trying to split the hydrogen atom in ways it's never been done and wasting our taxpayer dollars to do it, we're sitting here with viable plans and solutions, and they don't care. So it's a bit frustrating. I mean, I understand why we need to corporatize, why we need to elevate the organizational structure to be able to operate on the national, international scale like we want to. But how do we get there with the province when it's been in this state?
Through your worship to the councillor, and Ryan, feel free to weigh in on this one as well. But I think a lot of it is you look back to the fear of change. I think the province is obviously self-interested and wants to do what protects the province. They're very cautious about some sort of one-sided plan that would just benefit the city of St. John and not benefit the rest of the province. I think we've been advocating for that, and actually I think St. John Energy even has a preparing to show the province how corporatization of St. John Energy can help the entire province, not just the city of St. John. But I think we just have to work through that. So they have some natural fear of what may happen if it were to happen. And I think we have to work through that both with staff of the province and also MB Power.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I'm glad to hear you guys, and Ryan, feel free to jump in, but like if you guys are going to work with a plan to demonstrate to them how it works for them and it benefits them too, because I find that's often their rebuttal, right? Is as Ian said.
You know, certainly we're willing to put the time in, you know, to figure out like how might we do this, like, you know, whatever any remaining issues, you know, may be. And I think it's fair to say, Ian, that, you know, this response has been, it's not a no, it's just a not now, need a little bit more time, you know, with it. But having the corporate structure provides agility for the utility. It provides commercial certainty in terms of the areas that we can operate. It also levels the playing field for us, you know, to be able to perform services in the region that other municipally owned electric utilities from outside the, you know, the region can. So it is very important to us, but, you know, I think it's also fair to say from St. John Energy's perspective, we're never going to stop innovating. Like, we're never going to stop doing what's in the best interest for our customer. We're never going to stop, you know, doing what's in the best interest of our shareholder. And I think that's a commitment you can take to the bank from St. John Energy.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ogden, over to you.
I just want to thank Ian, Jim, and Ryan, and just to get across the point to citizens of St. John, we're extremely fortunate to have St. John Energy and to have the staff that's working there. Like, it's really important that everybody knows that in the city, that we've got a gem here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ryan and Jim, very much for coming in and letting people know what you're doing and what you are trying to do and the obstacles in the way. I mean, I remember when I was on St. John Energy and we were doing Birchill, and it was one problem after another trying to get that. But I got to commend you guys and the board for the perseverance that you've had, and it's now paying off for the citizens of St. John. So thank you for that. The other thing is that, you know, we don't think about it every day, but St. John Energy plays a big part in this community in terms of supporting organizations and doing things, fundraising for events and stuff like that. So they're well known, not only for, you know, delivering efficient energy all the time. And I know for people outside the city, they don't like me saying that, but it's the truth and they know it. But they, you know, they also give back to the community in a big way. So I just want to thank you guys for that, because the city's far better off with you, and we're behind you 100%. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy. Councillor Norton?
Thank you, Your Worship. To piggyback on what the deputy already said, it's well within your DNA to innovate. You've been doing it for a long time at St. John Energy, and I think at Deb Fisher with PAL, she always says you build on the backs of those before us, and you guys have a strong legacy of that. So thank you. One request, don't take Samir Yemen over to St. John Energy, whatever happens there, because every time I hear about what we're doing at St. John Energy from efficiency, greening technologies, and innovation, I'm like, we need a little piece of that with the city of St. John, and you guys have you have a lot of it over on the St. John Energy side. But solar lighting at Rockwood Park, you think about the 10% differential in terms of rates for St. John Energy customers. It goes on and on and on in terms of what we have. I'm glad that Councillor Harris mentions, look, we have high water utility rates. Absolutely right. We need to get those down. But we look at the glass is half full. Certainly it's exceeding that with St. John Energy as a strong partner. I did want to say one thing. I think Council has an obligation to continue to do what we do and protect St. John Energy. And we've seen that with past motions at this table. We've seen that with the fact that we're supporting the corporatization to allow you to be more nimble in this ecosystem, to do more and exceedingly more beyond just heat pumps and power distribution. But we have a responsibility around this table to protect that entity and play an advocacy role as well. So as long as this guy's here and I can speak for the people around here, St. John Energy is well protected. So thank you.
Thank you, team. I'll add too that St. John Energy is a gem in the city, and when we started this journey with corporatization, we wanted to call the other major cities and some of the other cities that would have some interest in this, and everybody's jealous. Everybody would like to have what we have, so we want to hang on to it for sure. So it's great to have you two in tonight to sort of give for council a little bit of an update and for the public as well. But I will ask while you're here, what are the peak hours for any of us who are not married to certain hours of using our electricity? Is it like the sun 10, no sun, no beach time, 10 to 2, or what is it?
Well, it really, I'll give you a very engineering answer. It depends. But
okay. Uh-oh.
It depends by month, but quite often it's around 8 o'clock in the morning when people are getting up and taking their showers and heading to work. So, and it's through the week. So, but certainly our team has been doing a lot to manage the peak, leveraging the batteries and whatnot. And we've had tremendous success. So, but if you can forego a shower, maybe that
at 8, maybe later or earlier. Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
You're doing great work, and I'm very proud. The whole team, we're so proud of St. John Energy, and great to have you here, and we want to keep that going and protect it. And we do want our legislation, which is from 1922, to change so that we can really get on the move. And I do appreciate the fact that you say you won't stop innovating, because that's important too. We'll just keep rolling with it until we get what we need to get, but we will get there with corporatization.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Council. And I'd also like to thank staff as well. Your staff have been tremendous support along the way for us, so would also like to acknowledge them.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so I'll take a motion to receive for information. Oh, Councillor. Yep, go ahead, Councillor Sullivan. I'll take that motion from you, though.
Sorry, Your Worship, you just gave me an opportunity to advertise. So the Shave the Peak has several facets to it, but one of the big pieces is that the ratepayers and the users of St. John Energy can be part of that solution. So if you haven't attached to St. John Energy in their social media, everybody should, because they'll send out, they know it's going to be a cold day, it's going to be a hot day, there's going to be air conditioning, there's going to be heat going. And they are very good at letting the public know ahead of time that this is going to be key time to maybe forego that shower today, maybe take it later in the day. So make sure, if you're not already following on socials, you should, because the stove rentals from 1922 are falling off.
Thank you. I'll take a mover on receive for information. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is under the consideration of bylaws section, item 10.1, and this is for Millage Avenue Boat Ramp Rehabilitation Project, traffic bylaw amendment.
Sending this over to Commissioner Hugenholtz, please, for the intro.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. The purpose of the report before you this evening is to recommend to Council that the St. John traffic bylaw be amended to remove on-street parking on both sides of Millage Avenue from the area near the boat ramp. This will prevent issues with parked vehicles and trailers blocking access to the boat ramp during the busy summer season. We did receive feedback along these lines from our consultation sessions with the stakeholders and the public in the area. So we are seeking first and second reading this evening, and we would return in near the end of construction for the third reading. Subject to your questions, I'll turn it back over to the chair for the required readings.
Okay, over to you, City Clerk, for the motions required.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in this case, just two motions. Readings need approval, first and second reading by title.
So I'll take a motion to approve first reading by title. Deputy and Councillor Radwan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting the traffic on streets in the city of St. John and amendments thereto.
And I'll take a motion to approve second reading by title. Councillor Harris and Councillor Killen on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Excellent. Next.
A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting the traffic on streets in the city of St. John.
Thank you. City Clerk, next item.
And next item is 10.2, and this one is a zoning bylaw amendment with Section 59 conditions at 910 Fairville Boulevard, third reading.
Okay, and this one here is Mr. Dobbelstein. Are you doing a quick intro on this one? Oh, okay, couldn't see you there. Sorry. Over to you.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. Before you this evening is third reading for an application for rezoning that was submitted by the Islamic Society of New Brunswick for the property located at 910 Fairville Boulevard. The rezoning will permit the development of a mixed-use 60-unit apartment building. The application received first and second reading on July 8th, 2024, following the required public hearing. And I can confirm that all legislative requirements of the Community Planning Act have been met, and the item is now before you to move forward to third reading.
Thank you. City Clerk, I'll pass it over to you for the required motions.
Thank you. And just to make note, the Deputy Mayor has withdrawn as he wasn't here for the public hearing.
Oh,
on this.
okay.
So this requires 5 motions, and I'll just go through them one at a time as they come up. The first one is approve third reading in its entirety.
Approval third reading in its entirety. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Lowe on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And this is entitled A Law to Amend the Zoning Bylaw of the City of St. John. The zoning bylaw of the City of St. John enacted on the 15th day of December 2014 is amended by amending Schedule A, the zoning map of the City of St. John, by rezoning a parcel of land having an area of approximately 12,242 square meters located at 910 Fairville Boulevard, also identified as PID 00402446, from regional commercial to regional commercial residential, pursuant to a resolution adopted by Common Council under Section 59 of the Community Planning Act.
Okay, next motion.
And so next is to approve the submitted Section 59 conditions that are in your packet.
Section 59 is Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Harris on the question. Oh, sorry. Councillor Hickey, I meant to say. It both begins with H, okay? Councillor Hickey on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Third motion would be to approve third reading by title.
Third reading by title, Councillor Killen and Councillor Ogden on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John. Fourth motion is for council to assent to the subdivision plan.
Council to assent to the subdivision plan, Councillor Lowe and Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And the final and fifth motion is for council to assent to the money in lieu of land for public purposes.
Councillor Killen and Councillor Radwan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Excellent. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you. Next item is a submission by a council member. It's item 11.1 on your agenda, and it is from Councillor Radwan, a notice of motion with respect to letter to Minister Jill Green.
Okay, Councillor, I'm sending that over to you to read your motion, and then if you get a seconder, you can speak to it.
Thank you, Mayor. So as to direct the mayor to send a letter off to the government of New Brunswick copying Minister Jill Green to request 24/7 supervision at the 124, I think it's actually 120 Waterloo Street, otherwise known as the Seacan site.
Okay. Actually, I will correct myself. We have a new, you're fine. We have a new rule with motions, so you
Yeah,
won't speak to it tonight.
just
If you have
reading
a
it.
seconder, it'll just sit for the 2 weeks, and then we
Yes.
can. Okay, so do I have a seconder on that?
Second.
Councillor Harris, okay. Call the question. On the, oh no, I'm not calling anything. Okay, sorry. Just a notice of motion, just read right into the minutes, yep. Okay. Next item then, City Clerk?
And just as a reminder to the council, so what would occur is the motion gets deferred until the next meeting of council, at which
Right,
time
so
it can
it'll
be
be a-
discussed and
right,
voted on. So
right.
tonight was just the presentation.
Right, okay.
So item 11.2 is another submission by Councillor Radwan. It's a notice of motion, and it's with respect to Community Safety Service Unit.
Okay, Councillor Radwan, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So the motion is that the CAO be directed to have staff get a budget estimate together for Community Safety Services Unit and propose timeline on forming one and report back to council in approximately 6 weeks. Mayor, I just wanted to let council know that I have asked to suspend the procedural bylaw tonight because I think in times of urgency like this item, we need to have a discussion on it. The community is crying out to us to get more resources in place. And, you know, we have a lot of partners that we're working together with, the province, frontline services that are doing a great job, but there is a need for more service. And keep in mind, our next council meeting is in a month's time. So I'm proposing, and then I was proposing that they still have 6 weeks, so.
Okay, so I'm going to refer to the city clerk for that. So am I doing the first part with the seconder first?
So there would need to be a mover to suspend the procedural bylaw to allow a discussion and vote to take place on
Okay,
this motion.
do we vote on it first?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a seconder. If that's going anywhere, that would need a seconder.
Is it moved by Councillor Radwan?
Councillor Radwan, you're moving it,
Yes, I
correct?
would move it, yes, yeah.
I'll suspend the procedural bylaw.
No. We're just going to vote on whether there's a seconder on the motion, correct?
No. So this is to suspend the procedural bylaw
suspend the procedural
to allow
bylaw.
a discussion to take place on Councillor Radwan's submission tonight.
Okay.
And so we just had Councillor Radwan move that motion and Councillor Harris second the motion. So now you would take the vote to council on whether to suspend the procedural bylaw.
Right, so the vote is, oh, yes.
Yeah, and it requires a 2/3 of the whole of council in order to pass, so that would be 8 members. It would require 8 positive votes in order to discuss this matter tonight.
Okay, so the question that I'm calling then is to suspend the procedural bylaw. All right, so I'm going to call the question, on the question. All in favor? 3, 4? Okay, motion fails.
Yep,
for
that's
that.
right.
Okay, so now where are we with the?
Your
actual
worship, I'd
motion
just
now?
like to confirm the nay votes on that, because we took the positive votes.
Okay, sorry.
And, okay.
Okay, so on the, so I'll ask, all in favor I've asked, so against? Okay. Did you get them there, John? 3 over here. Okay.
I think I'm missing one. I have Councillor Sullivan, Lowe, Norton, Killen, Ogden.
No, Sullivan was
Oh.
in favor.
My apologies.
Okay, so the question that I'm asking is, for suspending the procedural bylaw tonight to discuss the motion versus where we have the rules right that we just read it into the minutes. So on that question of suspending the procedural bylaws, are we ready for the vote? All in favor? 1, 2, 3. What? How many, what did you get there?
I was on the prevailing side at the beginning.
All right, so now we call the negative votes.
Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4 against? Okay.
4 against. 5.
It's split.
Who's the fifth one? You're the fifth one against?
So it requires 8 positive votes?
It's still
Oh, it
different.
requires 8 votes, sorry.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
without the 8 votes, it would follow the regular procedure of going to the following meeting for discussion.
Councillor Sullivan, over to you.
Just a question, Your Worship. On the motion that's being deferred, I'd really like to refer it to our police commission. So is it possible to refer a deferred motion?
John?
Mayor,
so-
I don't know if I can clarify. My whole motion, maybe it sounds that way, but I absolutely am not wanting policing. That's absolutely nothing.
I understand that, but
Nothing criminalizing for
from my perspective, and if I get a seconder, I'll speak to the reason for the referral.
So you're
So
looking
if-
for a referral
I would
motion?
move to refer this
first,
to the police
to
commission.
refer this issue.
On a similar timeline, actually, to see if they can get back to us in
Okay.
that 6 weeks.
Okay, all right. Okay,
And-
so I've got Councillor Ogden seconding it.
And I'll speak to the reason for the referral.
Can I just call a point of order for a second?
Yeah.
It's incredibly friendly. We voted to not suspend procedural bylaw. Right. So now the counselor needs to present the motion, the notice of motion. Right.
The next meeting.
And then we can vote to refer.
Is that correct?
Because we have not discussed
That's right.
the actual notice of the motion.
My apologies. Yes, fair.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
would be the preferable way. However, a referral motion would supersede the deferral motion. So it's up to council ultimately.
Yeah, I'm happy to go back to allow Councilor Radwin to introduce her motion. Yeah. She brought the motion first, so she should have that.
Okay, so just over to you, Councillor Radwan.
Oh, so I'm actually, well,
I don't know. Just to read it. You're going to read
yeah,
your,
so I did,
read your
though.
motion.
So it's that the CAO be directed to have staff get a budget estimate together for a community safety services unit and propose timeline on forming one and report back to council in approximately 6 weeks. So
Okay.
that'll happen in about a month's time, right? The next
So
meeting.
that one gets read, and that's in the minutes now, correct?
And I'll second it.
You seconded it,
So
right?
now it's on the floor, ready to go.
So no, you seconded it.
And now we can call a question, so we can get a referral.
Well, we didn't today. I'll move we refer it to the police commission. for
Okay,
a lot
perfect.
similar time.
All right. And I got a seconder from Councillor Ogden, correct?
Yes, will I give a reasonable?
No.
No discussion on referral.
No discussion on referral. Okay, so I have a referral to send this to the police for information,
I would hope for response.
a response.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Right,
just-
with the same sort of a thing with a response.
Yeah, I just feel that they're more equipped with the expertise to respond to
Okay.
this, that's all.
All right, so I'll call the question on the motion to refer to police. Counselor?
I didn't think that we were going to do anything with the motion tonight because the procedural bylaw is not suspended.
No, but.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's confusing. Okay.
John?
So a council member can bring a referral motion to any meeting. And in this case, there are two different ways we could have treated it. As discussed, we could allow it to wait until the next meeting for a formal referral motion to be brought. However, any item on the agenda, a council member is able to bring a motion. And so this item's on the agenda. The council member brought a motion to refer it to the police commission, has received a seconder, so it would be appropriate to take the vote of council in this case.
All right, so
May I
I'm going to
ask
call
a
the question.
clarifying question? I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm just wondering if in the month's time when we come back, does that hit the table with hopefully a response from the police commission or no? Is it just gone to police and it's finished there? How does that work?
It's still notice of motion, I believe. It stays on as a notice of motion.
Okay.
My hope is the police come back
It would
with some
be,
information at the same time, and it's a full discussion.
yeah, it'd be good
Okay.
if we had a timeline, see if they could requesting nicely.
All right, so I'll call the question on the motion to refer to police. All in favor? Opposed? One is opposed? You opposed?
Sorry.
To refer to police?
Yeah, we're good.
You're yes or no?
Yes.
A yes. You're a no? Okay. We have one nay, is that it? Okay, one nay, so the motion carries to go to police. Okay, all right. I think that's good. Okay, next item.
Next item, another submission by a council member. This one is 11.3 submitted by Deputy McKenzie, and it's a notice of motion entitled Review of Fire Marshal's Responsibilities in Municipalities.
Deputy, over to you, and you're just going to get a seconder, you're going to read your motion. If you get a seconder, no, what?
No vote needed? Just
No vote needed, no,
introduction.
okay, just an introduction, get it in the minutes.
Okay, I'm going to have to get approval to suspend the
Okay.
procedural
You
bylaw,
have to
though.
talk to John.
Okay, I hope this isn't as difficult. Anyway, the motion says, whereas municipalities have expressed some concerns with the fire marshal's office over lack of flexibility, inconsistent enforcement, and the overruling of local assistance to the fire marshal, be it resolved, the Common Council recommend the roles and responsibilities of the fire marshal's office within the context of fire code enforcement, appeals, plans reviews, public education, and fire investigations be reviewed by the Union of Municipalities of the Province of New Brunswick.
Is there a seconder on that motion of the deputies? Okay, Councillor Killen said you'll second that. Yes?
Your worship, my apology, I just wanted to offer procedural advice. So we're not voting yet
No.
on the council member's motion. So if the council member, he's already read it.
Right.
If he'd like to discuss it any further, he requires suspension of the procedural bylaw to discuss it tonight.
Okay.
So
Okay, so you're moving suspension of the, okay. Do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Lowe? So I'll call the vote on that, and it has to be 8 out of 10 to suspend. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? 1 opposed. Okay, so that's 9 voting for. All right, so I guess the floor is yours, Deputy.
Thank you, Bishop. We don't have to look very far back to see what's going on here. I mean, we try to move the city forward, and every time we take 2 steps forward, we end up taking a step back because the interference with the provincial fire department, fire marshal with our local fire marshal, it's just not working as well as it could be working. And we see that just recently with our bars on the waterfront. However, it's not just St. John. I've talked to mayors and deputy mayors across the province of New Brunswick, and I don't think there's any location in this province that's not seeing exactly the same thing happen. So what I'm trying to do with this motion is take it provincially so that it's not just a municipality that's complaining, it's the whole province saying we need to do better. Okay, we can't have shops and bars opening and closing at the whim of somebody saying, oh, I don't like that, I don't like this. And I might be a little bit, flippant about it, but I think patience has run out with a lot of people. A lot of businesses have lost thousands of dollars over this. So I appreciate the support of council in moving this forward. It has to go through a meeting for the Zone 3 of UMNB, which is our zone, we belong to it. It has to be at that meeting on the 15th of August. That's why I'm asking for the procedural bylaw to be bypassed to get this there instead of waiting for another year. Thank you.
Okay, so I got 2 questions for you on that before we vote on it. I have a question from Councillor Ogden first.
Just a comment that the centralization of power and taxes in one area, no matter what jurisdiction, does not work. You need people, local people making decisions, and I think what he's referring to at Market Square is just a prime example of St. Johners having their power taken away, plus their taxes, and all the centralization in Fredericton, which is the way something should not work. And we do need a disbursement of our powers and our taxes back. And that's a major, major priority in the city. And it's something that has held St. John back with power and taxes all moved to Fredericton. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris?
That it's not just bars and Market Square. It's many builders in town run into a weird, I myself had a question for our fire chief tonight about the interpretation. There just needs to be a lot more skin in the game from the province and that office in the success stories of businesses and builders trying to do stuff. And if they're looking for recommendations, send them our way, because I've got about 50. And I know a bunch of other guys and gals who would have another 100 or so behind them. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Question or comment on the item, Councillor Hickey?
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I just add that the Office of the Provincial Fire Marshal exists because for many years, many areas in New Brunswick did not have municipal representation to receive fire marshal. Thanks to municipal reform, we are getting there. Municipalities have access to localized offices of the fire marshal, which in this case, and specific to this instance that's being alluded to here, I personally have become very familiar with UL 95 ratings, and I've also become familiar with how uncomfortable picnic tables are. I think in this case, the redundancy that we're seeing from bureaucracy, both municipally and provincially, needs, and I think in this case, the provincial oversight needs to be reviewed. And I'm very happy to see this and glad to continue to move it forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Redwan?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this motion, actually, Deputy. I didn't realize that you needed it for next month. That's why I voted against the urgency part of it. Businesses have lost a lot of money because of the patios not getting opened, or, well, they were opened and then closed. So it's been a huge issue, very important issue. We need to make sure our small businesses, especially, you know, I mean, the restaurants on the boardwalk have had barriers come up with, you know, COVID and then construction, and, you know, it's been very, very challenging for them. So we certainly didn't need another barrier. So I'm fine with supporting your motion, Deputy, and thank you for doing it. You know, very important to have these as priorities, and it's also very important to make sure that everybody is safe. So let's see how things go for the Housing for All strategy.
Thank you. So Deputy, I think I need you to put your motion on the floor. And then I'll need a seconder. Councillor Radwan's going to second it if we can get it up there.
Whereas municipalities have expressed some concerns with the Fire Marshal's Office over lack of flexibility, inconsistent enforcement, and the overruling of local assistance to the Fire Marshal. Be it resolved, the Common Council recommend the roles and responsibilities of the Fire Marshal's Office within the context of fire code enforcement, appeals, plans review, public education, and fire investigations be reviewed by the Union of Municipalities of the Province of New Brunswick.
Yeah, Councillor Radwan said she'll second that. So on the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
Thank
before
you,
we
everyone.
move on to the next thing, I just want to say to the audience that what was happening is on a Thursday night when I would open my kit, there would be a motion in it that we were expected to vote on Monday. So I opened my kit Thursday night. I've got a motion in there. I don't know a thing about it. I don't have any background. And it would be motions that were brought forward by councillors. And that's all fine because we all want to be bringing motions and whatever we're doing and trying to improve our areas and our interests. So what we had decided to do was that you would still bring your motion, but it would just be read into the minutes. And then 2 weeks later, which is on our usual schedule, we would then deal with it. It would give staff an opportunity to respond to it. It would give everybody an opportunity to find out a little bit about it so that we could make an informed decision, because everything that's in this kit tonight, and there's not that many pages, there's only about 400 pages in here, I think, but everything in the kit has a recommendation from staff. But when the motions were coming in from councillors, there was no recommendation, there was no background, there was nothing. So that's the delay, and we're just getting used to what the procedure is. We know that we have to read it into the minutes. We'll deal with it in a couple of weeks, but then if you want to get it expedited, there's a way to do it, but it's got to be 8 out of the 10, et cetera. So that's what's happening tonight with these motions, because these motions are all brought by councillors. So that's the end of the section of motions that have been brought by councillors, and we're now going to move on to your committee reports. So City Clerk, next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on your agenda, item 13.1, under committee reports, we have the Housing for All strategy.
So the Housing for All strategy. Okay, so for this one, I'm sending this over to Councillor Hickey, and the CAO will both introduce it. So over to you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Bringing this forward as Chair of the Public Safety in response to last week's Public Safety meeting. I think there is a very clear recognition of the crisis we're dealing with in this community. And I think we are desperate for leadership on it. Our neighborhoods have become the front line of our housing crisis, and I would contend that there is no dignity in homelessness, neither for those that live in it or for the neighborhoods they occupy. It's evidenced by the amount of people here today. It's evidenced by the community conversations we're having, and it's evidenced by all of us living in this community as well. We're bringing forward our Housing for All strategy, which was supported by the Public Safety Committee in a very good discussion that also included a few important things. Outlined beginning implementation of the strategy, bring a resourcing plan to Common Council on an annual basis for the duration of the strategy for our consideration as part of annual budget deliberations. For more urgent, and I can't say that enough, for more urgent timelines, and as well for a clear and discernible ask to other levels of government as to where the city needs to be going in addressing this crisis and how we can respond to that. I'm going to turn it over to the CAO from here, at which point it'll go to staff, and then we'll have a council conversation about it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Hickey. Yeah, homelessness is visible in the city. It has grown. More unhoused sites have been established in different areas of the city, and the encampment sites, have been found in very unsafe locations and haphazardly in the city. At times, we're finding them close to locations like schools, daycares, playgrounds, and there are many along the Provincial Department of Transportation Infrastructure's throughway. The sites not only become unsightly, but a risk to public health and creates concern for public safety and well-being, including those who are residing in the encampment. However, as I mentioned at the Public Safety Committee meeting, hidden homelessness is also prevalent. That is a population without guaranteed residency, so people who may be couch surfing or staying in short-term rentals who are often in precarious situations. And so homelessness is affecting the health of the community, but a big part of what is also affecting our community are, I think, the social issues that we're going on.
Okay.
Sure. Social issues combined with housing crisis is having an impact on police resources, fire department resources, our public works resources, community services, healthcare services, et cetera. So in response to this, we felt it was important to pull together resources and come up with a housing for all strategy. I believe this is the first of its kind in New Brunswick for a municipality to undertake, the concept of which was already approved by council. So keeping in mind that we're doing this with very limited resources, the resources we have dedicated to this, when you add them all up, account to about 75% of one full-time employee. That's the amount of dedication that we're putting to this file, which, we're working in collaboration with the province of New Brunswick, the various nonprofits, including Fresh Start Services, who are here this evening, who are working on the front lines daily with this, as well as with the St. John Police Force and others to improve the situation, and also to continue to increase our coordination as we work to address homelessness in our community. So with that, I turn it over to Director Dovelstein.
Thank you, CEO McGovern. So I'm pleased to introduce my colleague Kara here in just a moment to give you an overview of the strategy. But before doing that, I'd like to give you a bit of a lens through which to view this. It's to clarify what the strategy is and isn't. So primarily the document is just that, it's a strategy document. Right? There might be a temptation to view it as a tactical document, and those are two different things. Strategy is the roadmap, where we're going. The tactics are talking about specifically what's the vehicle we're going to get there and where are we stopping on the way and who's doing what. To put it into perspective, there's an item tonight you're going to see regarding green zones, red zones, and there may be a question, a legitimate question. Well, where are those? How come I don't see them in the strategy? Can you please tell me what those green zones are? That is a tactical question. The strategic question is, should we have zones that are green, yellow, and red? That's the strategic conversation. So that's the first piece of context to view this in. All of the actions are going to have defined project plans, defined resourcing requirements. What's the scope? And again, as the CEO mentioned, we're in a territory the city doesn't normally enter into. So it's the degree to which council will sort of inform and decide in terms of how we move along as an organization, as a community. We also want to make sure that our timelines are accurate. And we're certainly going to be wanting to hear from you this evening. What are the actions that are most urgent to you and your constituents, and which are the ones that we should push off to later on? Because we can't do all things to all people all at once. We need to do things at the appropriate time. We also want to make sure these actions are measurable, that they're clearly defined. We know when something's been achieved and when it hasn't been. And finally, I would clarify, and you'll see this in the document itself, and I'm sure Kara will reference it, it's a living document. This is a document that we're going to change as we learn, and we learn what best practices are, and we grow as a community to find out what works and what doesn't work. And so we're open to feedback throughout the entire life of the plan on what may be working, what may need to be improved. And finally, we want to say thank you, particularly to our many partners who provided input over the many months of developing the strategy, our staff, the outpouring of the community who's voiced their opinions for needing to have a holistic approach to dealing with this urgent issue. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Kara Coase, who is our Senior Manager of Community Support Services, and she will go over the plan with you in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dobbelstein. Good evening, Your Worship, council members. I'm here this evening to share with you the Housing for All strategy. New Brunswick's housing strategy, formerly under Social Development with Housing NB, had made the commitment to reach the province's goal of ending homelessness by targeting 5 priority areas: partnerships, housing, health and well-being, prevention, and data. In spring 2023, we began the journey of collaborating with the province, community agencies, and other partners to support those living in encampments. Later that year in the summer, research and interviews began as a first step developing a policy to support the homeless population. Fall 2023, a vision statement is approved with the intention to be a steering statement for those around the table contributing to the development of the policy. That winter, the Out of the Cold shelter opens at 344 Somerset Street. Winter 2024, the Homelessness Hub opens at 344 Somerset Street, providing a safe space for this population to be out of the cold, along with some wraparound services providing support. Spring 2024, the Foundation Center Homelessness Hub opens at 100 Waterloo Street. The top floor is designed for client appointments and wraparound services, where the bottom level is designed as a drop-in space where the on-house can access washrooms, showers, laundry facilities with snacks, as well as have a social component and be in a safe, warm, dry space. The City of St. John's vision statement reads, as every resident within the City of St. John is entitled to a safe, supported, and sustainable home. In the spirit of the right to adequate housing, articulated in the 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the City of St. John wishes for its residents to live in security, peace, and dignity, regardless of the home's permanence. The City of St. John's goal is to provide safe community spaces for access by all its residents, while supporting individuals as they access housing that meets their specific needs. For our Housing for All strategy, we know housing affects everyone. The overarching goal of having affordable housing will drastically reduce the homeless population. Social Development is currently working with agencies to review data collected in order to identify what types of housing is needed for our community, along with the homeless housing spectrum. There are 7 levels of housing to support and the on-house population, and we want to make sure that we have the right number of each level for our community. Prevention and diversion has been implemented into service agreements between the province and community who provide this type of support for our homeless population. Prevention assistance will support housed community members in their current housing situation, where diversion assists those who are unhoused find a permanent housing solution. This is a person-centered, as each client has varying experiences and needs. The Housing for All strategy is an overarching live document capturing how the City of St. John will support the homeless population in collaboration with different levels of government and community agencies. Through the 28 actions within the strategy, the City of St. John will communicate what is happening in our community to produce adequate housing and demonstrate this through updates and celebrations when milestones are achieved. We have 4 strategic priorities: coordination and governance, which is continually informing and contributing to processes governed by laws and policies; emergency supports, safe, dignified spaces for the on-house population; prevention, education, and safety, coordinated supports, education, and training; and housing supports, which is identifying types needed along the housing continuum. With our action plan, it's important to note that the strategy, as Director Dobbelstein shared, it should be viewed as a roadmap. It's a living document, and it's meant to adapt. All 28 actions will need each will need their own project plan, clearly defined parameters and achievable scope, resourcing requirements, timelines, and measurable outcomes. Looking at I'll run through our action plan, and I'll highlight the actions that the city is leading as well as the city is co-leading throughout. So as we're looking at our objective number one for coordination and governance, the city is going to be leading action number 2, and which is our legislation action, and action number 4, which is our compliance. So with the legislation, this is where we would explore potential bylaws or zoning that may need to be reviewed and incorporated. And with compliance, it's ensuring that we are working together collaboratively and consistently and being able to adhere to the zoning and bylaws that are in the community. The city will be co-leading action level 3, which is relocation and decommissioning any of our sites, and that's in collaboration with Government of New Brunswick. And action number 5 with our frontline agencies on mapping our sites across the community. With objective number 2 in emergency supports, the city is going to be collating action item 6, which is our on-house sites, and that's in collaboration with the Government of New Brunswick. Oh, wrong one. Perfect. And the city will be leading action number 10, which is our unsheltered sites. And this is the site that Director Dobbelstein referred to where we will be exploring and identifying green, yellow, and red zones throughout the community. For objective number 3, prevention, education, and safety, the city will be leading actions 11, which is our site cleanup service, something we have been doing since last year and providing garbage pickup, for example, and we will continue to provide that service. And also action number 15, which are information campaigns, educating and informing the community of actions that have been happening and updates along the way, along with educational components as in regards to the homeless population. City will be co-leading action number 12, our non-emergent calls, and we'll be co-leading this with the St. John Police Force. For objective 3, continuing the prevention, education, and safety, City will be leading action number 19, which is updating our municipal emergency management plan to ensure that there's plans documented and in place to support our on-house population. And we will be co-leading actions number 16 with Avenue B, and this is to identify where sharps containers should be located throughout the community and install those for prevention, care, and safety. And actions number 20 with frontline agencies to provide staff training. Objective number 4, housing supports. The city will be partnering and supporting, however, we will not be leading or co-leading these objectives. They're primarily led by the Government of New Brunswick and our frontline agencies, such as transitional housing or public housing, for example. Once approved by council, we will begin implementation. This is a 3-year strategy, a living document, where the plans will be built out for each of the 28 actions to include specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Community is working together to support the on-house population while housing options are being created, working towards the same goal and working separately and together, ensuring proper resources are available. And with the Government of New Brunswick, as towards their strategy, they will be working through our 3 levels of the population, providing on-time supports to prevent homelessness, such as rent banks, direct-to-client rent supplements, income supports, and household supports. Supporting the diverting of those experiencing homelessness, such as housing-focused shelters, hubs, participating in the point-in-time count, and transitioning to housing, such as supportive housing units, new public housing, and income support programs. Some considerations before you is to think about what actions do you consider to be most urgent? What would achieving the action look like to you? And at what level should the action be resourced and by whom? And with that, I have the recommendation before you that the Public Safety Committee recommends that the Housing for All Homeless strategy be adopted by Common Council, and that Common Council direct the CAO to direct staff to begin implementation of the strategy and bring a resourcing plan to Common Council on an annual basis for the duration of the strategy for their consideration as part of the annual budget deliberations, and a more urgent timelines and a clear, discernible task. Thank you.
All right, Kara, I've got some I guess questions or comments. The first one up is Councillor Radwan.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Kara, thank you. There's a lot of information in this document. I just wanted to mention that our community is feeling such a huge sense of urgency to deal with the challenges that we have. And I strongly believe that we are in crisis mode. And although there's many systemic issues that won't be solved overnight, like housing for everybody, addictions, mental health, rent control mechanism, stabilization of inflation, we need to mitigate challenges soon, very soon. Staff, you've actually all addressed what we are able to do, whether it be site cleanup or putting the yellow, red, and green zones into place, which I strongly suggest. And I strongly suggest those green zones have porta potties and have garbage pickup so that people can feel like human beings on these sites. With staff having a pretty full schedule, though, I don't think that we actually have somebody who's able to do all of this. So who's going to do the work? Well, in the other municipalities, it's a community safety services unit. Residents, businesses, our unhoused people need to all feel safe, and we need more resources in place, and we need it now. So I think that we need to do this as quickly as we can. What do I think is most important, as you asked, is probably your green, yellow, and red zones. It's a hard thing to do, but we absolutely need to make sure that people have facilities that they can use until we get housing. Some people come out and say, get rid of tents. Don't allow people in tents, and that really frustrates me. But finally, residents need to really realize that you can't. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough shelter beds. There was a municipality in BC that tried to do that, and they got sued. So we absolutely can't do that. People need to be treated with respect and dignity. All residents, including our unhoused residents. I think staff have done a really, really, really great job of doing that, and I think that we need to have a gentle hand in helping people, not criminalizing people. I don't think we need more police. I think that we need something that says community in it to help people. So, I think that the green, yellow, and red zones for me would be number one, and we probably need some bylaws in place because as great as our frontline staff are, and they're doing fantastic work every single day, I really feel like you do need to have somebody with authority so that if there is a red zone, like maybe next to an elementary school, for example, or something, we do need to be able to have enforcement, but that's a last resort. That has to be the absolute last resort. So anyway, I'm not sure how do we speed this up is my question.
Did you want to try to answer that? Thank you, Kara.
Through your worship to Councillor Radwan. So part of today being able to go through the actions is to find out where council finds where their priorities are to be able to move those forward. Some of these actions, as I mentioned, reference, for example, we've been doing them for a while. Others we have been working on. So as you speak to the zones, it's something that the team and I have been evaluating and exploring across the country, internationally, and so forth, and also consulting and working very closely with the province of New Brunswick and our community agencies. To help identify, for example, how many individuals should be at each site and the mix of individuals, where sites should be located in proximity to hub services. And these are some considerations that we have been exploring over the past few months. So we do have some of that information to move forward, and we'll be able to continue to activate those once approved by council.
Thank you. I did notice in the kit it says Q3 of 24, which is now from the mapping. Councillor Harris, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we first have to diagnose the problem properly. In 2017, I worked with Outflow Men's Shelter. I took guys out from the job site or onto job sites who were doing better and looking to get access to work. That shelter was never full, rarely ever full at that time. People are spilling out onto the streets now everywhere. And the number one, I can continue to say this, and some people in the crowd have heard me say it before, and certainly everybody around this table have heard me say it. We're the ones that are going to set the direction to change where we're going. And we haven't resourced anything in the last 2 years directly. We've been constantly deferring this to the province, saying we need to go after federal money, saying we need to do something else. Councillor Hickey's own motion, 2 years old now. Not your fault, Kara. You've got 4 other jobs here. You've got 4 hats. You're not resourced to do this. And despite the efforts of some councillors around this table to try to get direct resources expended, we can chase the province and the feds all day. But there are frontline service agents around this room, or agencies, sorry, and executive directors and nonprofit. And I don't know of a time when this council has had them come in and whiteboard some of this stuff. Put some good opportunities on the floor. Have staff and council talk about it in real time. We've never done it. We need to do it. If you're going to ask me, what is the most urgent thing? I think this plan has some great elements to it. But the problem is like 2 years old now, right? And it's becoming a worse problem each year. So unless we respond to the level with the urgency that it's required, I am not going to be in a position to support a plan where the main driver is, let's go ask the province if they're willing to high-five this plan, because they won't. But if we're willing to put our money and our resources, we've got growth reserves sitting here. Well, growth pressures are here on the city and on our community. We need to have the frontline service providers in front of this council. We need to have clear asks from them, and we can cost it out. Even good dart throws are good at this point in time to start putting real money on the table to resource real organizations and real impact. And, you know, surveillance, maybe, sure. Who's going to do it would be my question. What organization? Who's going to lead them? Where's the oversight? There's all kinds of questions around this piece that you're talking about, Councillor. I'd be interested to know. But I think we got to start with who we have already on the front line. And before we enact this plan, let's let them put some holes in it. And let's let them identify some opportunities that we can take away and say, here's the best plan, here's a good plan, and here's the better plan. Which one are we going to do, A, B, or C? And what risk tolerance are we comfortable with? But we don't have any of that here. So it's really hard to set direction on this plan when there's sort of a foundation that hasn't been established. Anyway, I know I'm over time, Mayor, so I'll come back for a second round, but that's just where my head's at.
Carrie, you didn't have a slide with the engagement, or did you, with engagement?
No, through your worship to Councilor Harris, I did not have a slide for the engagement piece. However, in the strategy itself, on the end of it, there's a list of stakeholders that have been involved throughout the whole process. And with the action plan, any of the community agencies and the government of New Brunswick, we did meetings to ensure commitment from the stakeholders that are identified within the plan as well.
I think we need it here. Yeah. It needs to be a special meeting. And I think we need it here.
Councillor Killen, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I was just going to ask that. I'm pretty sure that there's a pretty extensive list that you've engaged with, and maybe we just haven't heard directly from them, and that's part of the miscommunication. I think that that's a big part of all of these discussions we're having now is there's a lot of misnomers, a lot of facts that aren't true. There's all kinds of issues where stories become really big and we don't have that clarifying information about what it is, which was my issue with the earlier motion is where are the crime hotspots? What is the biggest issues that we have? Where's law enforcement in this conversation? What kind of conversation do we need to have with them? We have a housing problem. Are we advocating and looking to experts of what we really, who know what they're doing and who know what we need to see in St. John? We don't have that many folks on the streets. Maybe it's a bigger crime problem than it is a homeless problem. These are some of those unanswered questions that I have, and I feel, we need to look to experts like Fresh Start who do promote reconciliation and a more cohesive community and a place where we are not demonizing people who are in unfortunate housing situations or who have drug addictions or have mental health, problems. So how can we advocate? It's an election year. We have the chance right now to ask people who are in charge of billion-dollar surpluses. We're sitting here with like pennies compared to what the province has and don't have the mandate. So kudos to you, Kara, for trying to do as much as you possibly can to pull this together, and to David, Director David, as well, to just try your best to bring this community together. I think we are broken. We are separated. We are really divided and hating on each other and hating on people who are in desperate situations. So I really would desperately ask the public to come together with us to help solve this problem and to not look at people who are struggling as creepy or awful. They are sick. And I see some reactions. I get it. This is the bleeding heart over here. I know how everyone thinks about me. It's fine. I forever think that there is a pathway towards reconciliation versus division. And unless we're going to work on that together, then we're lost. So.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ogden, over to you.
As in public safety, I will be voting against this. I don't think there's enough definition. And it's not that my heart's not there. I've spent my life with food banks and coaching and teaching for decades and in these communities, but there's not enough definition here. The public in general is fearful. There's safety issues, there's fear spreading, and fear is a powerful, powerful emotion. The only way to beat it is hope. And we've got to get back to some of the reasons why trauma is happening. And there are a whole bunch of solutions. We certainly need the province there. There has to be more humanity from the province in terms of addiction and mental health, and we are not seeing that. And we are the level of government out of the three with the least amount of money, but we're the ones out on the street and seeing it every day, and it's where most Canadians live, is urban areas. So it's got to be dealt with. We do need housing right away, but there's not enough definition, and there's not been enough public input. So that's why I will be voting against this.
Councillor Hickey?
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I guess just to address Kara's question directly, I think the priority needs to be establishing our zones. It has to be. We need structure in how our encampments are, in where they are, because I think we're seeing those community impacts at every level, and that means making sure that that's prioritized, and I think prioritize faster. My question right now, and then after I get the answer, I can continue, but when will we get those green zones? When will that happen?
Through your worship to Councillor Hickey. As I mentioned, it's something that we have been working on. So once council is approved, we can start implementing, or not implementing, but digging a little bit deeper to put those pieces into action. So for example, we've had the opportunity to look across the community to see where there could be potential sites. So first identifying those and then looking at zoning and so on and so forth. So those pieces are lined up for us to be able to move forward. It's just the capacity to be able to do that and to bring everything together.
So is that our next meeting?
Our next meeting. We would like to be able to put something together to bring forward. I'm not sure if we'll be able to have everything in place for the next meeting in August.
Yeah, maybe if I can just jump in. So we do have it as a Q3 deliverable in the plan. And I would also note, just in terms of those zones, it will be very important. We see a role. Again, back to our limited resource, we have 3/4 of a person working on this. And so we're looking to actually move the needle here. But it's going to be critical that the province of New Brunswick come to the table. And we're going to have the services, like a Fresh Start there, to provide those services. There's going to have to be fencing. There's going to have to be, washroom facilities, all those sorts of things that are required for a better situation than those who are homeless are currently facing, and so that we have the ability to better manage those sites as well. In addition, just in terms of the solicitation of input, or either directly or through the creation of this, they're listed here: Avenue B, Center for Youth Care, Coverdale Center for Women, Fresh Start Services, Government of New Brunswick, Social Development, Public Health, Horizon Health, Housing New Brunswick Corporation, Human Development Council, Kaleidoscope Social Impact, Mobile Mental Health, Outflow Ministry, St. John Police Force, St. John Transit. So there has been a significant level of involvement over many months with input from various areas, and we really appreciate the input that they have provided to be able to get us to this point. Thank you.
But
Thank you, CAO.
I guess if I can just continue, Your Worship, we need to match the moment with some urgency here, folks. We have to. We can't say maybe
I
it's
guess
gonna-
what I'll
we-
say
we-
is we're
we
in
can't say
Q3.
maybe- But we can't say maybe it's going to come back at the next meeting. The next meeting's not for a month. The one after that's 6 weeks from now. Right? Like, our community's desperate for us to take action here. It's my opinion to see the biggest impact for both those living in homelessness and the neighborhoods is to establish green zones. We have to go now.
Thank you, Counselor. What I'll say about that is that they're going to be difficult because nobody's called me and said, I want a green zone next to my house. So for us to find the neighborhoods to put a green zone in, it's not going to be easy, but we are going to find them. And so we're going to do them different. They're going to be a different sort of a pilot. And in this, when I was reading number 10, it says, as a pilot, the city working with the province of New Brunswick, because we need them on board for the cash, will identify permitted areas where the unhoused can erect tents within the city limits and establish appropriate policies and processes. So it'll identify green zones, yellow zones where erecting a tent is permitted at certain times of the year, and red zones will be the no-go. That starts in Q3. So I get the urgency. I want it to happen fast, but I also want it to happen right, and I want to make sure that we do the right thing with it and we don't rush to judgment with it all, and then we end up with not doing it right, because it erodes the confidence of everybody if we don't do it right. So I do want to do it right. I get the urgency. And, you know, I like this roadmap. And I'll say that housing has historically, and everybody calls this a cop-out, has been the job and the money should come from the province. But we have the results of it. So we need to step up to that plate. But when you spend $1 when you get a bill for anything and there's $1 worth of tax on it that you've paid, 8 cents of that comes to the city. The other 92 goes to the province. So it makes it difficult. The only way we generate any taxes is through, any funds is through property taxes. 55% of everything that's not residential, we keep. The other 45% goes to the province. So we're only keeping 100% of residential. So you need your residential. So, I mean, we can invest more money, but you always do it at, you know, as Don Darling always used to say, he had his little buckets out. Take $1 from here, where do you want to put it? If you're going to put one in here, where are you taking it from there? So that's what we're juggling with. We only have one person, Kara, who's got, you know, a few other big files on her plate. And we're working with the community, and the community knows because they're in the trenches and they're helping us with the advice of what we should be doing, where we should be going. And we're relying on the province as well. We need them on board for a lot of this stuff. So I'm happy with it. I feel like it's a start. And that, as Kara said, every item 28 will need to have a full plan build out and resources. So I don't want to spend more time on this for me talking than I'm allowing my counselors. It's only 3 minutes. So I'm going to move on to someone else. I'll start round 2, I guess, unless there's anyone who has not had a chance to speak, who would like to speak. I'll go to, can I go to Director Dobbelstein first? Go ahead. And then I'll go to Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Worship. Just a piece of context on the tactical elements. Certainly staff can hear the urgency in your voices as we're talking through this. One of the challenges is that staff just can't decide this unilaterally. Certainly there's a lot of community consultation that will be required, and we'll also have to vet this with you. And I'll give you an example. If we're talking about green zones, I think anyone in the room would expect you shouldn't have a green zone on school property. The more contextual problem is, well, how far away must that green zone be from school property? And then when you start thinking about all the other types of properties you wouldn't want green zones nearby, it's a much more challenging conversation. But it starts to paint the picture as to how we do this. So we already do have theoretical zones identified at a staff level with tested metrics that we're using based on best practices that we're identifying in other jurisdictions across the country, but those still need to be validated, certainly by this council and perhaps certainly by our partners on the front lines. Are these the right locations and distances, and do they need to have attachments to water and sewage? All these other contextual pieces, like how close to transit, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly we appreciate and understand the urgency and want to get there as quick as we can, but to the mayor's point as well, we want to make sure we do it correctly and with everybody saying these are the parameters that we're setting.
Okay, thank you. Director, can I go to Councillor Stewart? You had your light on. If you want to say a couple, you good?
Yeah, of course. I'll be quick.
It's fine.
Kara, we've talked about confusion because there's lots of confusion there, but if I understood Councillor Harris right, he's saying that he has spoken with some of the community organizations and that they're not coming to the table, or they're not being invited to the table. Have you spoken to these community groups? Have we engaged with them? Have we got their input on this roadmap that we're talking about?
Yes, so the
We have,
stakeholders
right?
listed in the backstory, through your worship to the councillor, we have had direct conversations with organizations, in addition to roundtables with different community agencies and committees as well.
So this is part of what bothers me, is that when we talk about confusion, we have a councillor saying it's not happening, and yet we have them sitting here saying it is happening. It's very confusing to the public because it's confusing to me. As Director Dovelstein pointed out here so eloquently, this is a roadmap. There's none of us can afford to vote against this roadmap because this is the most logical, advanced plan that we've got available to us right now. Does it need perfection? Of course, we need to focus resources on this. We need a sense of urgency, of course, but this is the roadmap. This isn't the tactical implementation. Okay, we'll get to that. Yes, it's urgent. We understand that people are here tonight because they feel threatened, they feel unsafe, but you have to start with a plan, and then you've got to resource that plan, and you've got to back that plan up. And, I have so much faith in city staff that when they tell me that they're engaging properly, I believe you. I believe you. So we need to get the message out there that we are doing what needs to be done. But as far as the importance, zones to me, I think are a great idea, and we need to start with that. So I'll end it right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. I'm going to go to the deputy next because he hasn't spoken yet, and then I can start round two.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kara, this is a very good plan. Okay, it's the best that I've ever seen. But I mean, the only thing I can say is, we need to up the timelines if we can. But, to a couple of comments that were made here, I've been here when we had to cut back $10 million because we had no policies for finance and everything. We do now, okay? But to the mayor's point, we get 8 cents on the dollar. So we're smart enough now that we're not going to take a one-time bucket of money and say, we're going to hire 10 people and they're going to do this. And then at the end of the year, the bucket runs dry and we lay the 10 people off. It's not sustainable. So yeah, I'm 100% behind investing money, okay? But that doesn't mean that we can do it every year because it's going to run out. We need to invest now. The urgency's here, I get it, but we have to do it with a guarantee from the government that they're going to take it over, because the money runs dry, then the service or whatever we're doing is no longer there. So yeah, I think that the most important thing, I agree with these guys, is we've got to find green spaces and we've got to get the services in there for these people to improve their living conditions as quickly as we can. And if it takes municipal money to do that, so be it. But we need the province to stay, we don't expect this to go on and on every year. We're going to take it over. Thanks for everything you've done.
Thank you, Deputy. I'm going to start round two on my TO. Never mind, Councillor Lowe's up.
All right. Anyways, we're talking about the homeless, and I think we should shift and we should talk about the people too that live in houses where crime's taking place. And unfortunately, everybody's blaming the homeless for all the crime. So we referred something to the police commission. People should understand we don't control the police. It's a commission. But I would suggest somewhere along the line that we give the police commission money, a lot of money, and they can bring the police officers in undercover at nights and patrol the whole area where crime is existing. Because if you read social media, it's crime being broken into this, stealing that. But it's always the homeless that's getting blamed for it. And I don't think the homeless are doing all the stealing, all the breaking in. And the people, the drug dealers are living in homes with roofs on them. And I think that we should involve that through the police commission, but I think we should do it through our city manager, meeting with them. And we have 2 board members, the mayor and Greg, and we should move that ahead as fast as we can, to do it tomorrow, the next day, or the next day, and put the police out there to separate what's actually going on. Okay.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, round two. Counselor Radwan, back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. I feel like what Councillor Harris was trying to say is we need to get in a room and hash it out. Like what are the green and yellow and red zones? I have a feeling that city staff know which areas were a little more problematic, if we want to say that, or probably the better sites is a little bit better. And I bet you our frontline staff could probably get a list in a very short period of time, like maybe a week. So I also know what bucket of money to take out of, by the way, and it's called Community Services Reserve, which it's my understanding from what I know, and maybe Craig Levine can correct me if I'm wrong, there was $800,000 there, minus $240 for 3 bylaw officers, so I think there's $560K still there. This is a reserve. So once it's spent, it's spent. So that's literally a temp job. Then it's up to the finance committee to bring to council what's the plan for next year. Is there going to be money there for the next year? But thankfully, because like the deputy said, council underwent a very painful cutting exercise. We actually have reserves now. And now is the time to use it because we are in a crisis. It's extremely important. Staff have way too much on their plate. So I think that they need a temp job right now. And then we can hash things out at finance for the budget sessions. It's extremely important, absolutely, and it has to happen now. And it's not just about the green, yellow, and red zones. I think we need staff on the ground. I think that people need to know where to go for all the services. If things are made easier for people, there will be less stress as well for everybody. Right? So we need to do this gently. I mean, I don't think that we have to reinvent the wheel. Moncton has a ton of information that they're willing to send to us. And you know what? There's probably some good tweaking to do within there. But why not get the information? Why not? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Harris, back to you.
All right, I'm going to answer your question, Councillor Stewart, because I never said that they weren't asked. But I promise you, you mentioned that the people in this room, there's some frontline service groups here. I bet you if I asked any of them, is this the only thing you're asking for, that we pass this tonight? Their answer is going to be no. They got a long list of stuff that we could consider. And I know that because I happen to work off the side of my other desk with 2 nonprofits in town, and I've never had any support from the city on any of the housing initiatives that we're working on. This says housing for all. We got to have a pathway for housing. I'm dragging scaffolding up on Duke Street right now, trying to save a building that we can put in the hands of some of these organizations and claw it off the open market, right? This is a housing crisis, but don't make any mistake. There are lots of groups out there making money on this housing crisis. Real estate and leasing is the #1 GDP earner in this country, and it's criminal. And until we start to decommodify that and get it to folks who can use that housing, we're not doing enough. There is no quarterback at the city. We're talking about resources. Direct resources should be put on the table, even if it's $500,000. We don't take the whole reserve, maybe we take $500,000 of reserve money and we go to the best and the brightest that are in the nonprofit sector, working with people on the front line. We also open up to the police. If the police have a proposal, bring it. Let's have a pitch night. Let's see who comes up with the best plan to spend $500,000 to directly impact this problem right now. Because I know for a fact there's dozens of ideas that go nowhere in this city because we can't find a willing partner. All I need on a number of fronts, and all other organizations need in the nonprofit sector, is a stamp of approval saying the city cares about this, and here's our letter of support, and we will support this in these 3 ways, to send off for the province and to send off to the federal government. But we don't have that a lot of the time, and it needs to come from this table is all I'm saying. So I know that, Kara, you did the consultation here. But I know for a fact this isn't everything that could be asked for. So when we're thinking about what could be done right now with money that's available, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get those proposals put on the table. Let's direct fund some of these initiatives, and then let's go do the work through your office, Mayor, to tell the province to get off their butt and pay for what we just did for them. Because that is, you're right, that is their lane. And so when we tear down a building, we bill the province and we say, hey, we just tore down a building, pay us back the money. I know it's not in the Local Governance Act that we can do that, but it's also not there that we can't do that. So this is a gray area. For sure, we can go to the province and say, we just hired somebody, they did these 16 tasks, or we just direct funded whatever organization for this initiative. Surely you can pay us back for doing something that needed to be done.
Thank you, Councillor. I liked your line, housing as a commodity. I've said that many times myself, and you're 100% right about that. Councillor Killen, over to you.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, this is all the symptoms of growth. We've added, 5,000 to 6,000 people in the last 3 years to the city, mostly with out-of-town money. But I want to throw my vote in for the, to back up Chair Hickey of the green zones. Like, how can we make those happen? And that's going to take the community too. Like, that's going to take people buying into this idea and being supportive of it. So I just really, that's going to be a huge part, because as much pushback we get about anything we do, that's going to be tenfold. So if we have a supportive, which was my point before, empathetic community, we can establish those green zones and fund the people that are sitting there who are going to service them to the best of our ability, whether it's from Community Services Reserve or Growth Reserve. Both to me seem like likely places to pull from, considering one is there as a result of the excellent, financial abilities we've had here, as well as the fact that we've added 6,000 people, tax-paying citizens, to the mix. So if this is a result of that, then why can't we spend from that reserve too? And hopefully temporary situations, because we're building more housing, and all of this kind of flows together in a nice symbiotic way. But that's my vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hickey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess I just want to try and bring it back to the strategy we have before us and urge colleagues to leave operations to staff and to focus on what our strategy is moving forward. I think we've heard the need for urgency here. I think we've heard the need for immediate action that folks in our neighborhood can see tangibly happening in the community. I think that's really important. We've had 2 years to do this right. This can't be a starting point. It needs to be, we already need to be in drive moving forward, making sure that we're getting something done. And I will reiterate the need for green zones. I guess in terms of a discernible ask, because that's one of our objectives from this conversation as well. I think, to Councillor Lowe's point, we're calling on our residents not to criminalize homeless people. I think we need to make sure our asks are clear from that point. It means we as a body need to call on the provincial government, because I think we're safe to call on the provincial government at this point, because with a document like this, with the attention this council has offered to this, I think we're in a position to do so. We need judicial capacity. Right? Like I'll bring up a situation that happened not long ago uptown. Some vandalism occurred. It's been frequent and consistent from one individual. They end up in the court system that morning, out in community, because there's no judicial capacity for that person to get the resources they need from the system. We need to make sure that we're advocating for that, so that we can have a clear impact in our community. But I think those are two separate conversations, because I think we really need to stay focused on the strategy, support the strategy. If you're not supporting the strategy, I think we're setting ourselves back a long way in these discussions. We need to all be on board in this and recognize that this has to be number one priority for us, because it's impacting not only the humanity crisis we have, but the community as a whole. And we're feeling it, and we need to take action.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go to Councillor Norton, who's because he hasn't had a chance.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move a motion that we begin implementation of the strategy, bring a resourcing plan to Common Council on an annual basis, more urgent timelines, and a clear, discernible ask as presented in the staff report.
Okay, Deputy.
I can get a seconder?
Deputy's going to second that for you.
Thank you, Deputy.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Deputy, I've got you on my list here. Did you?
Oh, well, did he just do what I was going to do?
Okay, excellent. All right. So, all right, I will call the question shortly, but I will say to the public that we're in, there's a Chinese proverb that says, may you live in interesting times. And I always say that's a bit of a curse because these are difficult times for us. They're not easy times. The growing pains for the city are hard as we want to grow, as we want to increase housing, just regular housing, as we want to look at apartments and density, that's difficult for us. As we want to expand the city, that's difficult for us. Like everything is hard because it's change. And so I guess my ask to the citizens is to try to work with us and be a little bit patient. We're trying to get this figured out. We want to do it right. We've put the time in. Kara's put the time in. She's linked with the groups like Fresh Start that are here. We're trying to get all the angles that maybe, us as a team, it's not my bailiwick. It's not my background. It's nothing. So I need all of those signals coming in from everyone so we can get a balanced approach and go forward. So stay tuned. We will get there. We're the first. I don't know if we're the first in the Atlantic provinces, but we might be. We're the first in New Brunswick to come up with a strategy like this. So there's no playbook. And as a friend of mine likes to say, we're building this plane as we fly it. And there's a bit of truth to that too. So we're trying to move forward and we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to get the information that we need, but we want to do it. Like I said, we want to make sure it's done right. So, and I think this is a good roadmap. So I want to also thank you and thank staff because it's tough work and it's not work we're trained to do and historically have done. So we have a motion on the floor. So I'm going to call the question. You got a question, Councillor Harris? This is your third round.
I know, but it's just a question. I know we talked a lot about here. We talked about a lot here. A lot of people put some stuff forward. The motion on the table is to just go with this. But I know you took some notes. Kara, I'm curious. What's the big takeaway here for you?
Urgency.
Urgency?
We love it.
And then is there anything else specific that has come out of tonight that is going to alter this? Just so that I'm aware, because there was a lot of things flying around.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, in addition to the urgency, looking at the zoning components with the green, red, yellow, making sure, working with the community for engagement and getting inputs for other types of ideas to implement in the plan. And I think, as we mentioned, where it is a live document and it will adapt as we go forward, I'm sure other actions will be identified and will be built out as well. This was our starting point to get something moving forward and working on it together. So having some time hearing with council to see how we want to hash out and figure out some of those actions as well with the tactics. So
thank you. Okay,
Your
CAO,
Worship,
I'll send it over to you.
I would just add as well, just in terms of the zones, and comments have already been made relating to them, but it's important as well that the province be engaged in the review of those. Obviously, they're going to have a significant role to play in terms of resourcing it and ensuring that it meets their needs as well over the long term. So there are multiple stakeholders involved as we move forward and ensure that we get this right from the start, because understanding, as has been discussed already this evening, citing a location like this is not easy, and we want to try and get it right the first time and not have missteps along the way.
Thank you, CAO. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Ogden opposed. Thank you, team. Thank you, Kara. Director Doblstein, thank you to you as well. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is the general correspondence section. The first letter that we have on the agenda is a citizen letter with respect to homelessness and public safety, item 15.1 on the agenda, and there's a staff recommendation to refer this to Public Safety Committee.
Councillor Redmond, okay, I'll take a mover and a seconder. Councillor Hickey on the question. Oh, yeah, of course, to send to Public Safety and the Police Commission. Super, thank you for adding that. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is 15.2, citizen letter submission to council with respect to McLeod Road. Recommendation received for information as part of the capital budget program planning.
Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Norton and Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is 15.3, a letter from Steepleview Developments to the mayor and council. Recommendation is forward letter to Minister Austin, Public Safety, Minister Green of Social Development, and St. John Police Chief Bruce, and consider resources a part of the resource requirement review, which is an action within the Housing for All strategy.
I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Lowe and Councillor Stewart on the question. Councillor Radwan.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a lot of concerns about what's happening at the Steeple View apartment building being built. Mr. McDonald is spending almost $10,000 for security there. And come winter time, he is planning on putting security there for 12 hours, which will cost almost $13,000 a month. Now, keep in mind, 28 of these units are going to be affordable housing units, and he's had issues with staff being bear maced, having vehicles broken into, things getting stolen. I would love for staff to get back to him and, with any sort of help to mitigate things. I spoke to him myself, and I'm very, very, very concerned. I mean, we need these units available. I mean, we've had a huge conversation today about our Housing for All strategy, and we need to be able to support the developers who are going to put affordable housing units on the market. So, something has to be mitigated there. So I'm hoping that staff can get back to Mr. McDonald on this. He does a beautiful job. I mean, if you look at O'Leary Apartments over on the east side, they're wonderful. Residents love them. So, we need some sort of way to at least call and support and maybe give direction on what to do if these issues are happening.
Okay, that sounds good, Councillor. We can add that, absolutely. And I will let you know that I have spoken to John Sheehan, one of his board members, as well. So we've definitely been in contact with them. So on the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Item 15.4 is a letter from Fresh Start Services regarding fire safety bylaw, and there's a recommendation to receive for information as part of the creation of the draft St. John outdoor fire bylaw.
I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Radwan, Councillor Killen on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
And next are the items that came from the Committee of the Whole. And so the first of those items would be 17.1. The first is an invitation to present party platform at special open session meeting of council. The resolution is resolved that the mayor, on behalf of council, send the attached letter inviting St. John position paper. My apology, I have to take my glasses off here. Send the attached invitation letter and St. John position paper to each party leader participating in the upcoming provincial election, along with their candidates from St. John ridings, to present their platform at a special open session meeting of council.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder on that one. Councillor Norton, Councillor Radwan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next is item 17.2 from Committee of the Whole, and the subject is IRCC Contribution Agreement Amendment 4. And the resolution is that council approve the city enter into the contribution agreement amendment number 4 in the form as attached to M&C 2024-188 with His Majesty the King in right of Canada as represented by the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration for the purpose of increasing the contribution for 2024 to 2025 fiscal year, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said contribution agreement and any documents ancillary thereto.
I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Harris and the deputy on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And
Next item.
Next is the revised, it's item 17.3, revised lease agreement with St. John Arts Centre. And the motion would be that the city enter into a lease agreement with the St. John Arts Centre, Inc. in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole held at its meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, for the lease of the premises known as Carnegie Building, situated at 20 Peel Plaza, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said lease agreement and any other documents ancillary thereto.
Take a mover and a seconder. Councillor Killen and Councillor Hickey on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next is item 17.4, from Committee of the Whole. The subject is construction license agreement with,
17.4, that's King Street. That's not you. Yeah.
for the
Oh,
council
yeah,
members,
council,
sorry,
yeah.
yep. And so this is construction license agreement with WL Holdings for 99 King Street. The resolution reads that the city enter into a license agreement with WL Holdings, Inc. in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, over a portion of PID 39420, known as South Market Street, to permit the construction of a new building located at 99 King Street, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said license agreement and any other documents ancillary thereto.
Take a mover and a seconder, Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Killen on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, this is the one that Councillor Stewart and Councillor Radwan have conflict.
This subject is Retail Drive Realignment, Second Amending Agreement, and it's item 17.5. There are two separate resolutions required for this. So the first one would be that the city enter into the second amending agreement with Clearview Homes Limited and Orion MC Inc. in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, for the purpose of extending the city's conditions precedent in the amended and restated land acquisition agreement dated December 21, 2023, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said amending agreement and any documents ancillary thereto.
Oh, just that one? Okay, the first one. All right, I'll take a mover, Councillor Norton and Councillor Sullivan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 17.
And so the next would be 17.5.1, which is the second half to this separate report, though, however. This is financial contribution agreement, 26 Retail Drive. The resolution is that the city enter into the financial contribution agreement with Barbara Ellenberg, generally in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole, at its meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, for the purpose of securing vacant possession of lands required for the Retail Drive Realignment Project, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said financial agreement and any other documents ancillary thereto.
Okay, I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Hickey and Councillor Killen on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, okay, we need our two councillors back. General Counsel's going to go get them here. Here, Councillor Radwan's on this side. In your bathroom. Do we need his vote? No. All right, I guess we'll go. We can go with no sign of him.
Okay, so the
Okay.
next
Right, might as well go.
Next item is 17.6, sale of portion of Somerset Acres to Housing NB. And the resolution would read that the city enter into an agreement of purchase and sale generally in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on July 22nd with New Brunswick Housing Corporation for the sale of portion of PID 000-46359 containing an approximate area of 11,364 square meters, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any documents necessary to effect this transaction.
Okay, I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Hickey on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
And next is item 17.7. Pardon me. And this is entitled Rapid Housing Initiative, Barrack Green Update. And the resolution would read that the city enter into an amended and restated contribution agreement in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on July 22nd with Kaleidoscope Social Impact, Inc., the amendment for the purpose of reflecting a change of contractor and changes in funding structure, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said amendment and any documents ancillary thereto. Number two, that the city of St. John discharge the mortgage on the rectory property, being PID number 552-42242, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the discharge and any documents ancillary thereto or necessary to effect the transaction. And three, that the city enter into a contribution agreement in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on July 22nd with the financial contribution of $257,790 to assist in closing the funding gap, the Barracks Green Residence Project, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said contribution agreement and any other documents ancillary
Over
thereto.
in a seconder, Councillor Hickey and the deputy on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion opposed. Councillor Lowe? Motion carried. Councillor Lowe, over to you. Meeting is adjourned. I'll take a seconder on that. Councillor Stewart. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. I appreciate it. It's nicer for us if we have a bit of an audience, so appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here, too, and your team.